Okay, sorry about that. We're all set?
Yes, we are recording.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Ann Stiber. I've been designated the hearing officer by DCP Commissioner Michelle Siegel. Also here today are Commissioners Nick Boletto and Commissioner John McKinney. We are here for a legally sufficient remonstrance in the matter of Fifth State Distillery, Robert Schulten permittee, 259 Asylum Street, Bridgeport, Connecticut. And we are conducting this hearing via Zoom. So I do have a few housekeeping matters I would like to start with. First, we do ask that you speak clearly and one at a time, as the hearing, as you know, is being recorded. Please keep your video cameras on throughout the hearing. You should keep your microphone on mute when you are not speaking and state your name when you are going to begin to speak. Any exhibits that were sent in prior to the hearing will not be considered unless they are entered during the hearing. If you want to have an exhibit entered, you just need to let us know and it will be entered. Would you just state that if you have any technology issues during the hearing, you can call 860-840-2075 or contact the DCP help desk at dcp.helpdesk@ct.gov. And at this point, I just will ask everyone first to identify themselves. Then I will be swearing in any witnesses that wish to testify. And then just so you know the order of this proceeding, DCP will speak first, then we will have the remonstrant speak, and then finally any representatives from Fifth State Distillery. So I will ask everyone to identify themselves. Attorney Anderson, if you would like to begin.
Good afternoon, Caitlin Anderson, Staff Attorney, Department of Consumer Protection.
Hold on, I've lost my video. Sorry about that. I already introduced the commissioners. Who is here representing Fifth State Distillery?
Good afternoon, Peter Burdun from Burdun, Young and Margolis, representing Fifth State Distillery. And on the Zoom call as well are Bridget and Robert Schulten.
Okay, thank you. And is the agent for the remonstrance here?
I am. My name is Maria Pereira. I'm the city councilwoman for the 138 district in Bridgeport.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Boucher, if you can identify yourself.
Yes, my name is William Boucher, and I'm a special agent with the Connecticut Liquor Control Commission Division of the Department of Consumer Protection.
Okay. I do now ask that all those who will be testifying, please raise your right hand. Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I'm sorry. I had to mute myself. I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as I stated, we will begin with the Department of Consumer Protection. So at this point, I will turn it over to Attorney Anderson. Attorney Anderson.
Thank you. A few housekeeping matters. First, would the commission like me to enter today's notice?
Yes, we will mark the notice of today's hearing as DCP Commission Exhibit A.
Thank you. Okay. And then I would like to call Special Liquor Control Agent William Boucher, please. All right. Hello, Special Agent Boucher. How are you?
Good morning. Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Could you please state your name, title, and business address, please?
Yes, my name is William J. Boucher. I am a special agent with the Connecticut Liquor Control Commission. The business address is 450 Columbus Boulevard, Hartford, Connecticut.
And how long have you been with Liquor Control?
Approximately 35 years.
Is part of your job to review remonstrance petitions received by the department?
Yes, it is.
And so you're familiar with the requirements and laws concerning remonstrances.
Yes, I am.
Did you review the remonstrance filed regarding the Fifth State Distillery?
Yes, I did.
Did you verify that this was a valid remonstrance signed by 10 individuals over the age of 18 in the town of Bridgeport?
Yes, I did. I called a number of the people that were listed on the remonstrance and spoke to them personally, and actually I verified over 10 of them were legitimate remonstrance.
Was this remonstrance received in a timely manner?
Yes, it was.
Now, is this remonstrance on a new application, a renewal, or a removal?
It's on a renewal.
Okay. And if it was on a renewal, do you know when this permit first issued?
The permit was first issued on February 25th of 2016. But part of the legislation that was passed a year ago, there was a conversion of the permits. They restructured the manufacturing permits, and this was being reissued under the new organization for manufacturing liquor permits.
Thank you. Are there any enforcement issues to date against the old permit?
There is currently an outstanding complaint on the permit that has yet to be investigated. The complaint concerns some of the same issues that is listed in the remonstrance.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Can you briefly explain the substance of the concerns raised by the remonstrance?
Is it all right if I look at my notes while I do that?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
The concerns had to do with them violating local zoning regulations and the noise from the events that were taking place at the premises that were affecting the residents that lived in the area, specifically with noise from trucks. And there was also concerns with them serving alcoholic beverages outside the premises and having issues on the sidewalks there.
Did you write a report summarizing your review of the remonstrance?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I will be sharing my screen in a moment. Agent Boucher, do you recognize the document currently on the screen?
Yes, that is a copy of my report with my signature and the signature of my supervisor on it.
And you appended a copy of the petition that was received.
Yes, that's the petition with a list of the people who had signed with their addresses and phone numbers and date of birth. And that's what I used to confirm that there was at least 10 people who were over the age of 18 who lived in the town where the premises existed and signed the remonstrance.
The date of birth on the version you reviewed was not redacted, correct?
No, it was not. I was able to see their actual dates of birth.
I can represent that I did redact this document pursuant to personal identifying information. So, all right, I would like to have this entered as Commission Exhibit B.
Okay, we'll mark that as and enter it as Commission Exhibit B.
And Special Agent Boucher, absent this remonstrance, is there any other reasons that would prevent the renewal and conversion of this permit?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Thank you. I have no additional questions for the agent.
Okay, Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions for the agent?
I do not.
Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay. Ms. Pereira, do you have any questions for Agent Boucher?
I do, if I may. I was unaware of the second complaint that he received regarding Fifth State Distillery. May I ask when that was filed?
I don't have a record of that on me at this time. I believe it was approximately the same time, maybe shortly before the remonstrance received. I believe it might have been you who filed the complaint. Again, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, I apologize. Okay, I understand what you're talking about now. Thank you.
Okay, Attorney Bourdon, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, thank you, Agent Boucher. Attorney Anderson, do you have any other witnesses?
I do not, but with your permission, I know Agent Boucher has other constraints on his time this afternoon. Is it all right if he leaves this call with understanding that I can reach him if he's needed in the future for this hearing?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Agent Boucher. You're free to leave.
Thank you very much.
Great. I have no additional witnesses or exhibits.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pereira, then I'm going to turn it over to you. It's your opportunity to speak and submit anything into the record if you so choose. And then after you have spoken, you can call any additional witnesses that you also have.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to enter in as an exhibit a police report filed against the liquor permit holder, Mr. Robert Schulten, which was forwarded to Attorney Anderson.
Well, in terms of permitting matters, we're not allowed to consider records of arrest.
There was no arrest. There was a report filed against him for his behavior towards residents and homeowners in the neighborhood when we were holding a peaceful assembly in front of his distillery.
Okay, so it's a complaint.
It was a police report filing a complaint, correct?
Okay, all right, all right. Do you have the ability to call it up on the screen? Or Attorney Anderson, do you have a copy of it?
Can I make an objection first?
Yes.
So I would object. A police report resulted in no arrest. It's not relevant.
You know, we tend to allow documentation in, but we afford it the way it is recorded. So I'm going to allow it, but you know, we will take into consideration what it concerns.
I'm aware of the rules of evidence and administrative proceedings, but I did want to note my objection for the record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Should I call it up for identification?
Mhm. Okay, we will mark that as remonstrant exhibit 1. Okay, Ms. Pereira, if you want to continue.
Okay, I'd also like to introduce into the record the public speaking forum minutes of the regular city council meeting held on Monday, June 7th, in which a number of neighboring residents testified regarding Fifth State Distillery and the conduct of the liquor permit holder, Mr. Schulten.
Okay, Attorney Anderson, can you call that up?
And again, for the record, I would object. The minutes deal with a application of Fifth State before the city council for a lease, which would involve possible expansion of the premises and don't involve the premises as currently constructed.
Okay. We'll, again, we're going to allow it and we'll mark it as remonstrant exhibit number 2, but I do note your objection.
Those are all my exhibits.
Okay. If you would like to proceed with testimony to explain in more detail the request for the remonstrance.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners Boletto and McKinney, and hearing officer Stiver. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yep.
My name is Maria Pereira, and I am the city councilwoman representing the 138 district in Bridgeport, where the Fifth State Distillery is located, and live within easy walking distance of the distillery. I am also serving as both the agent for the remonstrance and a witness regarding today's hearing. Both I and my constituents petitioned this remonstrance hearing for the sole purpose of requesting that Robert Schulten's liquor permit for Fifth State Distillery as a manufacturer of spirits be revoked. The petition specifically references violations of Public Act 19-24, Section 30-16, and his presence as a nuisance in our neighborhood, not a proposed lease between the city and Fifth State Distillery, which is not under the Liquor Commission's purview. I understand the need of passing references to the proposed lease, is that was the initial catalyst for the parties becoming engaged with each other. However, it has nothing to do with our remonstrance petition. The Fifth State Distillery was approved prior to my being elected to the City Council in November 2019. Therefore, when the City Council received a proposed lease between the Fifth State Distillery and an adjacent municipal-owned property, 80 Hastings Street, I contacted William Coleman, who serves as Deputy Director of the Office of Planning and Economic Development, to obtain information about the proposed outdoor patio picnic area that would serve alcohol, cater for food, serve up to 100 guests, and provide live entertainment. Mr. Coleman arranged for a Zoom conference with Councilwoman Samia Suleiman, Associate Attorney, City Attorney Taisha Toms, himself and I for Friday, May 7th, 2021. During the call, we went through the lease together and asked several questions. At my request, Mr. Coleman arranged a tour of Fifth State Distillery, as I quite honestly knew nothing about distilleries and wanted to tour it and the adjacent city-owned property being considered in the lease. I do not consume alcohol, not even champagne during a wedding toast. The following day, on Saturday, May 8th, 2021, Councilwoman Samia Suleiman, Mr. Coleman, and I, as well as 4 members of our neighborhood group Protect Our Property, otherwise known as POP, were welcomed by Fifth State Distillery owners, Mr. and Mrs. Schulten, for a tour. Those neighborhood residents included Michelle Small, Andre Whaler, as well as longtime neighborhood block watch captain Helen Ogalauzak, who has resided on nearby Bradley Street her entire life. In all honesty, I've yet to meet anyone that knows more about the specific neighborhood than Ms. Lozak. The Schultens were quite welcoming and cordial, and throughout the tour, Mr. Schulten repeatedly stated that distilleries are one of the most regulated industries in the state. He also showed us tiny disposable cups he utilizes to provide tasting, while stating that liquor cannot be served or sold for consumption on the premises. During the tour, I asked Mr. Schulten what experience he had related to entertainment venues, as the Fifth State Distillery was zoned locally as light industrial, and the proposal would require a zone change to commercial retail, specifically entertainment live. Mr. Schulten stated that they had been holding quote unquote mini events at the distillery, and specifically referenced hosting quote bachelor parties and retirement parties, end quote. I thought to myself, who would ever hold a bachelor retirement party when no alcohol could be served on the premises? Although a red flag went off internally, I did not vocalize my concerns regarding this admission. Several of us were concerned about the potential parking issues 100 guests on the outdoor patio would create, as neither Fifth State Distillery nor the adjacent 80 Hastings Street property had a single on-site parking space. Mr. Schulten stated that in the past, many of his patrons utilized Uber or Lyft out of concern for intoxicated driving. Therefore, parking would not be an issue. Once again, this raised internal red flags. How does one become intoxicated for a maximum of 2 ounces in alcohol tastings? This distillery was not ADA compliant, as it was zoned as industrial. And because Mr. Schulten leased the property as an industrial site to manufacture liquor, he was not required to make the distillery ADA compliant. If that same location had changed to commercial retail to be utilized as entertainment live, he would have been required to make the property 100% ADA compliant. In addition, Mr. Schulten was approved to receive significant state mandated real estate and personal property tax breaks as a manufacturer, which expires at the end of 5 years, which is this September. The Fifth State Distillery would have never received those significant state mandated tax abatements as an entertainment venue. After conducting extensive canvassing in the immediate neighborhood where the Fifth State Distillery is located, every single constituent I and volunteers spoke with was completely opposed to this proposed lease for this outdoor patio that would accommodate up to 100 guests with live entertainment and no parking. as Fifth State Distillery is bordered by residential homes on Asylum, Rockland, Hastings, and Cogswell Streets. I have a responsibility to serve the interests of my constituents, not out-of-town developers or business owners. Therefore, I organized a pop press event with News 12 reporter Frank Recchia in front of Fifth State Distillery for Saturday morning, May 15, 2021 at 9 a.m. I and 11 of my constituents were asked to stand under the Fifth State Distillery sign by News 12 reporter Frank Recchia, and were on the public sidewalk bordering 259 Asylum Street and the adjacent municipal property proposed in the lease. We were peaceably assembled on the right of way with our backs facing Cogswell Street, as Frank Recchia was trying to attach a microphone to me for an interview. Suddenly, I heard a vehicle accelerating behind us while the driver was blaring the horn the entire time. It was quite clear that whomever it was, they were quite angry. Mr. Schulten then slammed on the brakes within inches of 3 of my constituents closest to the curb to my left. I was right next to all 3 constituents, and I was truly frightened for both their safety and, quite frankly, my own safety. My heart was literally racing. It was only then that Mr. Schulten noticed Frank Recchia standing in front of me. He threw open the driver's side door and exited the pickup truck. Both his facial expression and body language demonstrated he was livid. Although Frank Recchia was focusing on attaching the microphone to me, Mr. Schulten walked over to Frank Recchia and grabbed his hand to shake it vigorously. He said hello to Frank and asked how his mother was. Although Frank Recchia's mom had just been deceased for over a year, he simply replied, quote, "She's fine." I told Mr. Schulten, quote, "You're behaving very aggressive," end quote. Charles Fuller, who is autistic and assists Frank Recchia with his news reporting on weekends, inserted his left shoulder in between Mr. Schulten and Frank Recchia and repeatedly told Mr. Schulten to, quote, "Calm down." Mr. Schulten proceeded to flail his arms while aggressively stating we were blocking his driveway. I pointed out to Mr. Schulten that the gate to his driveway was locked, which required him to stop and exit his vehicle so that the gate could be unlocked prior to entry. Mr. Schulten re-entered his vehicle and his son exited the vehicle to unlock the gate. His son looked uncomfortable. However, he was not inappropriate in any way. We all scattered to the left and right side of the driveway as we did not want to be anywhere near the pickup truck as Mr. Schulten drove it into the driveway, which he proceeded to do. We then quickly discussed Mr. Schulten's outrageous behavior before refocusing on our News 12 interview. Michelle Small, Helen Ogun-Lozak, and I went to have breakfast together right after the press event and discussed Mr. Schulten's intimidating, harassing, and frightening conduct directed at both us and our neighbors simply for standing in opposition to the proposal for his outdoor patio. It was agreed I would contact the Bridgeport Police Department, but I wanted to speak with a few other constituents who were present as well. I did speak with both Andre Whaley and Carmen Ramos later that day, as they were 2 of the 3 constituents closest to the curb that were within inches of being struck by Mr. Schulten's pickup truck. They were also in agreement that a police report should be filed. I contacted the Bridgeport Police Department and requested an officer be sent to my home. I also called News 12 reporter Frank Recchia to ask him why, when Mr. Schulten asked him how his mother was doing, he responded with, quote unquote, "She's fine," instead of replying that she had been deceased for over a year. Frank Recchia responded that he did not want to engage in conversation with Mr. Schulten. Therefore, he simply answered with, quote unquote, "She's fine." He stated what happened was, quote, "nuts," and that he
I'm
just.
gonna object. She can testify to what, she said. She can't testify to what someone else said. Realize it's an administrative hearing, but it's also not, quite frankly, relevant.
I was the one having the conversation with him.
Okay, as you stated, hearsay is admissible, so we will allow it, but Ms. Pereira, I will remind you, the purpose of this proceeding is a remonstrance, the specific complaints that were laid out in your remonstrance request. we are getting a little far afield. So if you could just, remember
Well-
the purpose, I will let you proceed.
Well, this incident was specifically referenced in the remonstrance petition itself, the specific incident
Okay.
under the nuisance.
I understand, but you are talking quite a bit about what other people stated, and, unless they're here to, be cross-examined, it is a bit of a disadvantage. So, again, we allow hearsay, but, within reason.
Okay.
So,
As
okay.
I'm coming to the end here. As
Okay.
someone born and raised in Bridgeport, I often use a specific lens when weighing the actions of those not from Bridgeport, and as to whether their conduct, actions, or behavior would be tolerated in their suburban community. Therefore, I ask myself, would Mr. Schultzen have ever accelerated his Fifth State Distillery pickup truck at his predominantly white neighbors at Southport to intimidate, harass, and frighten them for simply trying to protect their quality of life while peacefully protesting a proposed 3,000 square foot patio that could have up to 100 guests with no parking and live entertainment 4 days and nights a week, bordered by residential homes? The answer is never, but he believed it was simply fine to demonstrate that behavior in Bridgeport in a low moderate income
I'm
neighborhood.
gonna object again. She can't talk about what my client was in his head. That's pure speculation.
I have to agree with Attorney Burdon on that. You are really speculating. So if you could, again, wrap it up and again, stick to the issues, in question.
Mr. Schulten has clearly demonstrated he is a nuisance and danger in our neighborhood and lacks the most basic temperament in dealing with neighboring homeowners and residents who have a constitutionally protected right to peacefully assemble and exercise their free speech. I considered holding a second protest event in front of Fifth State Distillery. However, those I mentioned it to were vehemently opposed because they were frightened by Mr. Schulten's conduct on Saturday, May 15, 2021.
Again, I'm gonna object. She can't be testifying to what other people think, and particularly when they're not here to testify. And this is really getting quite far afield.
Okay, I believe she's, wrapping up, but I mean, if you could proceed, Ms. Pereira.
And I guess Mr. Schulten achieved his objective. In addition, Mr. Schulten stated himself he had been hosting bachelor parties and retirement parties in violation of local zoning regulations and his liquor permit as a man.
I'm gonna object again. I move that all be stricken. She's not a lawyer. She's not able to make a legal conclusion.
Okay, again, this is an administrative hearing. It's not, and I understand your objections, but
I understand, but I have to make my objections for the record. You understand I need to do my job and make a record.
no, I understand it. I understand your objections, but we do have a lot of leeway in administrative proceedings. And so, again, for example, hearsay, we will allow it. We accord it the weight it's due.
No, I understand that.
And same thing with testimony, only testimony that is germane to the matter is, considered. So I do want to allow Ms. Pereira to finish.
No, I do understand that. My objection was to her conclusory statements as to violations of zoning law and things of that nature. That it requires a legal opinion, number one. And number two is, if there's a violation, have her bring forward, the violation from zoning. So.
Okay, but Attorney Bearden, you will have an opportunity to call your witnesses and raise any other objections you have. But again, we do, especially in a remonstrance, want to give the opportunity, for people to be heard.
I do understand that. Again, I need to do my job in terms of making the record.
I understand. Okay. Ms. Pereira.
And this goes right to the next sentence. This is not hearsay. It came directly from Mr. Schulten. He also stated that his experience with hosting mini events has shown that most of his guests had utilized Uber and Lyft to and from his distillery due to the risk of intoxication. He said that directly, and you'll hear witnesses to that. Drinking the maximum allowed of 2 ounce in tastings would not result in intoxication. 259 Asylum Street, where the Fifth State Distillery is located, is zoned for industrial use, which industrial use, which allowed Mr. Schulten to manufacture alcohol, not host events in which alcohol was clearly served in violation of Public Act 19-24, Section 30-16. My last paragraph. Based on Mr. Schulten's repeated violations of local zoning regulations, his threatening, intimidating, and frightening behavior directed at neighboring homeowners and residents, his repeated flagrant violation of his liquor permit as a manufacturer of spirits, and his illegal use of his distillery as an entertainment venue serving alcohol. I'm urging this commission as both the elected city councilwoman representing this neighborhood and as a neighborhood resident to revoke Fifth State Distillery's liquor permit. Mr. Schulten has repeatedly demonstrated a flagrant disregard for our zoning regulations and Connecticut general statutes that govern distilleries. Therefore, I would ask that if Mr. Schulten's egregious conduct would not be accepted or tolerated in your neighborhoods in Glastonbury, East Haven, or Westport, that it not be accepted or tolerated in Bridgeport. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pereira. Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions for Ms. Pereira?
No, I don't.
Okay, Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, but perhaps I'm just looking for clarification regarding there was a mention of 80 Hastings Street. Is that currently part of Fifth Street Distillery, or is that part of the discussion regarding a new lease with new space? If I could just get clarification on that.
Ms. Pereira?
Oh, okay. So it's a municipal owned property adjacent to Fifth State Distillery. Oh, even though the entrance is officially and the address is 80 Hastings, it abuts, the rear of that property abuts the Fifth State Distillery. And that section of the rear of the property is where a 3,000 square foot patio is being proposed.
Okay, and so the patio does not currently exist, correct?
It does not.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, this is Commissioner Boletto, and you're stating that they put the proposal through with no parking or any other?
As of right now, under our zoning regulations, they would be required to have 60 parking spaces, and there's not a single parking space available for this patio or the distillery, who would go change from manufacturing to retail commercial, specifically entertainment live in our zoning regulations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Attorney Verdun, do you have any questions for Ms. Pereira?
I do, thank you. Ms. Pereira, how close do you live to 259 Asylum Street?
I live at 206 Bradley Street. It's within walking distance, about 4.5 blocks.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
prior to May 8th, had you ever been to Fifth State Distillery?
I had never been to Fifth State Distillery, but I have clearly passed it many times.
Did you know that it existed?
Yes, I did, because I saw it on, I've seen them on Channel News 12.
Okay. And prior to the issues that you've raised with respect to the patio, have you ever made a complaint with respect to Fifth State Distillery?
No,
And with respect to the service of alcohol, you've never been into the distillery to observe any of the service of alcohol within the distillery, is that correct?
correct.
So you have no personal knowledge at all as to the amounts or quantities of alcohol that is provided by Fifth State Distillery?
Well, when I toured the distillery, Mr. Schulten did hold up the little disposable cups and explained that he could not serve more than 2 ounces to each patron, because it was only for tasting. So that's my knowledge through him.
Okay, and so he showed you the little tasting communion size cups that are used for the tastings?
That's correct.
And he indicated to you that those are the cups that he uses when tastings are provided to individuals who who take a tour of the facility.
Correct.
And you've never observed any other service of alcohol at the premises, correct?
I believe I already answered that question, but no, I have not.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure.
Mhm.
With respect to the police report you filed. This incident where you say that you were approached by Mr. Schulten when he was in his vehicle, that occurred in the morning, right?
I want to be clear, I wasn't approached. He accelerated his vehicle at me and my.
The event occurred in the morning, correct?
Yes.
What time in the morning?
9 a.m. we assembled there.
Nine in the morning. And when did this incident occur with Mr. Schulten? What time? Early after?
My guesstimation would be somewhere between 9:30, 9:40 a.m.
And the police report is accurate, right? In terms of what you reported to the police?
It's not completely accurate. I did not agree with the entirety of the report.
The report to the police was not made until the evening, isn't that correct?
Right, I had to wait for an officer to be dispatched, correct?
And we have Exhibit 3 brought up on the screen. And particularly just the
Okay, we don't have a 3. We have A, B, and then 1 and 2. So which one are you looking for?
I have a 3.
We do have a 3.
yeah, should have a 3.
What is it?
Their photos.
That
That
For
was
you?
never entered.
was not entered. Is this your exhibit, Peter?
Yeah, no, my exhibit.
Oh, that's not entered. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so this is Ms. Pereira's exhibit to be entered?
No, it's our exhibit to the answer.
Do you want to, it's a little bit out of order, but do you want to enter those now?
Yeah, because I need to refer to it.
Okay.
Ms. Pereira, do you recognize this photograph as the view looking south on Asylum Street, kind of right north of the intersection with Cogswell?
If you didn't tell me that, I wouldn't know it, but I would defer to you, and I'm sure it is.
Okay. If we can flip to the next photograph, please. And is this the view of Asylum Street looking north from the intersection of Hastings?
It does look like it. Yes,
And if we could look at the third photograph, please. And is this the photograph of the entrance to Fifth State Distillery?
yes. And if you see the sign there that says Fifth State Distillery above the
Yeah.
concrete wall,
Yeah,
and where the white arrow is to the right,
yeah.
so that is where you border the sidewalk between 259 Asylum Street, where Fifth State Distillery is located, and that long red brick wall is the rear of 80 Hastings Street.
Okay.
So we were standing right where the white arrow is on the right.
And the pavement that runs off to the right-hand side of the photograph, and that's the street, correct?
I'm sorry?
That's
the
the
right?
street. Yeah, so that area in there,
That's Asylum Street, correct?
that's Asylum Street. And the vegetation area, that's what you're saying is the sidewalk?
That is the municipal sidewalk at the rear of officially 80 Hastings Street.
Okay, okay.
Can I stop the screen share, or do you still need these?
You can take those down, thanks. I'd offer them.
Okay, we'll mark those as Commission Exhibit C.
Ms. Pereira, no one else other than you filed the police report, correct?
I filed that police report in consultation with,
That wasn't my question, Ms. Pereira. If you could answer my question. You were the only one to file a police report, correct?
Yes, the police came to my home.
And you were the only one to file the police report.
Yes, at the request with 4 additional.
That wasn't my
positions.
question, Ms. Pereira. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you.
I have a follow-up question.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto?
Ms. Ferrero, who asked you and requested for you to file that police report?
Thank you so much for asking. After we actually had the press event, myself, Helen Ogolozak, and Michelle Small went to eat breakfast. We were on their way to another scheduled event. And we agreed that it was so egregious, we had to file a police report, but I also wanted to consult with 2 other constituents who were present, whose phone numbers I actually had. So once I reached Carmen Ramos from Goddard Avenue and Andre Whaley from Wessels, obviously, they also strongly urged that I file a police report on behalf of all of us for what occurred that day.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McKinney, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Councilwoman Pereira, can I just follow up? You had mentioned that Mr. Schulten had said to you that he had hosted, I think you referenced retirement parties and bachelor parties. Do you have any independent knowledge of those parties being held at Fifth Street Distillery, or is that your sole source of information about those events?
For those 2, specifically for Mr. Schulten, he told me in front of other witnesses who will be testifying that he was holding those events on the property.
Okay, thank you. But you never saw or heard those parties independently?
No, constituents complained to me that they saw activity, loud music, DJs, and at some point there was seating out there and liquor was being served, but I never witnessed it myself.
Okay, and the people who had informed you, I'm assuming as their councilwoman, that these things happened, did they ever file any complaints about those parties?
No, one is a dean at Housatonic Community College. She's very challenged to try to appear here today. She's going to try. She lives on the Hastings Street side. Her father owns a house and the house next door is owned by her. They are literally across the street from 80 Hastings Street. So, and it was a former factory that was foreclosed on by the city. It ended up being so dilapidated, the city tore it down and then it had to be remediated. So there's nothing blocking your view from the Hastings Street side of the block, all the way up to Asylum. They can see directly over.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Pereira, my understanding, there's roughly, I believe about 10, we got a preliminary list of people who wanted to speak today. Looks like there's an additional about 10 people. So in the interest of making sure everyone who wants to be heard gets an opportunity, I will ask that those going forward to speak be limited to 5 minutes each. And if you want to call any of your witnesses, additional witnesses now at this time.
Yes, I can't, I guess I really can't see participants from a webinar. I'd like to know if Jennifer Rodriguez is on the line from phone number 203-726-2525. Or she might be using a Zoom app.
So I will just note that a lot of these names are DCP interns or staff. I will note there's a 1-203-727-5850 number.
Okay, you don't have a name attached to it because she's probably calling from a landline.
No,
That may be Helen Ogolozak. Can you ask if that's her?
I can allow this person to talk.
Okay.
Go. So whomever has that phone number, if you could unmute yourself, there you go.
Hi, I'm Helen Ogolozak. My phone number is 203-727-5850. I'm on my cell phone.
Okay,
Do
Ms.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Ms. Losak, did you want to speak today about today's remonstrance?
Yes, I did, but I don't know if there's an order. If you have an order of other people that may be before me, but you were reading my phone number earlier, and I wanted to tell you that I am on, and that 727-5850 is my number.
Okay, Ms. Pereira is your agent for the remonstrance. So Ms. Pereira, did you want to question Ms. Losak, or was she going to just speak on her own?
No, I have questions, but I want to ask, does she have to be sworn in before she testifies?
Oh, oh, yes. Anyone who is going to be speaking today, we did swear people in the beginning. If you were not sworn in and you're going to speak, please let us know before you start testifying. So Ms. Losak,
Okay, then I need to be sworn in.
yes, can you please raise your right hand?
Okay, my right hand is up.
Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Ms. Lozak, where do you reside?
I live at 304 Bradley Street, Bridgeport, Connecticut, 06610.
Am I the duly elected city councilwoman representing you and all the residents of the 138 district?
Yes, you are.
Are you a homeowner or a tenant? And how long have you owned or resided?
I am a homeowner.
How long have you resided in your home?
Over 60 years.
Have you ever lived anywhere else other than Bradley Street?
I live at Bradley Street, and I own 46 York Street that is under construction.
Were you invited to participate in a tour of Fifth State Distillery on Saturday, May 8th? If so, did you attend?
Yes, I did attend that tour.
Who else was present?
Councilwoman Maria Pereira, Councilwoman Samia Suleiman, she's our other councilwoman for the 138 district, Andre Whaley, and also Michelle Smalls,
Was there a city employee?
and myself.
Was there a city
Pardon?
employee? I'm sorry. Was there a city employee also present?
Yes, Mr. Bill Coleman from Economic Development.
And who was present representing Fifth State Distillery?
The owner, Mr. Robert Schulman, and also his wife were present, and also his son.
Okay. Throughout the tour, did you hear Mr. Schultz make any unsolicited remarks about the laws that govern distilleries?
Yes, he said that they were strictly regulated.
Okay. What specifically did you hear Mr. Schultz say when I was asking about his experience with entertainment venues versus his current business as a distillery?
Well, he talked about how COVID affected his manufacturing of hard liquor, and he mentioned that he was holding many events, retirement parties, and bachelor parties in his distillery.
Okay. Have you yourself ever attended a retirement party where alcohol was not served?
No.
Okay. When I raised issues around the lack of parking on the property and it created an issue on neighboring residential streets, what was Mr. Schultz's response in addressing my concerns related to parking?
He said that people usually jetson, that's the word he used, jetson from beer tasting, beer festivals to other liquor tasting places, and they use a Uber or a Lyft as rides because they are intoxicated.
Okay. On Monday, May 10th, did you participate in a neighborhood canvass handing out flyers about the proposed lease between Fifth State Distillery and the city regarding a parcel located on 80 Hastings Street?
Yes.
Did you speak with any residents? If so, were neighboring residents in support or opposition to the proposed lease?
I'm gonna.
Yes, I
object.
spoke
This
to
is-
I
this
spoke
is-
to a
I'm
number
gonna
of residents.
object, if I
I'm
can.
sorry, excuse me, Attorney Burdons.
We're talking about 88 Hastings Street. This issue may come up in another remonstrance in terms of whether or not the patio can exist or not. But this remonstrance is not about the patio.
Yeah, Ms. Pereira, if you can ask questions that are, again, relevant to this particular remonstrance.
It's why we held the press event. That's what I'm trying to get to. It is germane. It was
Okay.
feedback from constituents. Okay. All right.
Right.
Are
But
you-
a lot of that's already been covered by your testimony. We prefer if things don't get repeated over and over again, because again, we have a lot of people who want to speak and we want to make sure
Okay.
everyone has an opportunity.
Did you participate in a press event held in front of Fifth State Distillery and the adjacent property on Asylum Street on Saturday, May 15th?
Yes, I did.
How would you describe the conduct and behavior of the participants at that press event?
We were a group of about 11 of us, counting you, the councilwoman. We were peaceful. We were not blocking the driveway. We were basically under the sign of Fifth State Distillery, and we were peacefully assembled. We were talking, and Frank Recchia was setting up and getting ready to put the microphone on Maria Pereira for an interview. So we were peacefully assembled.
And where were we peaceful assembled? On private property or on a public right of way?
We were on a public right of way. We were not blocking his driveway.
Okay. What street were the participants' backs facing as we were speaking with reporter Frank Recchia from News 12? Our backs.
Cogswell Street.
Mhm. So what happened next as Frank Recchia was preparing to interview us?
There was a loud truck. It was a Dodge Ram, and it accelerated. It was making a lot of noise, and people were startled. It came very close to 3 of our group, and the horn was blaring. He was beeping the horn like a maniac, and he came very close to 3 people. Everybody was kind of scared that he was going to hit somebody, and then he stopped, and he got out, and he started saying that we were blocking his driveway. We were not on the driveway, and he did see Frank Recchia, and he did ask Frank about his mother, who was deceased about a year.
Mhm. How would you describe Mr. Schultz's behavior?
He was angry. He saw all of us. He kept saying that, get out of his way. He has to get in. He had to open the gate. He got back into his truck, and his son came out on the passenger side, and his son actually opened the gate, and then he went up the driveway with his truck.
Yeah.
But he was very mad. He saw us, and he was very, very mad and very hostile, aggressive.
Did anyone damage, threaten, or attack Mr. Schultz in his vehicle or his property?
No, nobody said anything to him. We were scared. We were scared that especially the 3 that were on the closest to when the truck came up, that we thought they were going to get hit. And he stopped, suddenly
Did Frank, I apologize.
within inches of hitting somebody.
Did Frank Recchia ultimately conduct his interview, and was that interview broadcast on News 12?
Can you repeat that again? Because I didn't hear it all.
Did Frank Recchia ultimately conduct his interview, and was it broadcast on News 12?
Yes.
Are you aware I filed a police report regarding Mr. Schultz's conduct and actions of Saturday, May 15th?
Yes, I asked you to do it later when we were having breakfast.
Did I consult with you? Did you receive a copy of and read the police report?
Yes, I did. And I
Do you
have the copy.
Do you agree with the filing of the police report?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe Mr. Schulten's liquor permit to manufacture spirits at Fifth State Distillery located at 259 Asylum Street should be revoked? And if so, why?
Yes, I do feel it should be revoked. First of all, he was very dangerous to the residents in that neighborhood. Doesn't understand how this would disrupt the quality of our life. And also, he's manufacturing hard liquor. He's manufacturing gin, moonshine, whiskey, flavored vodka. These are hard liquors. This is not craft beer. This is hard liquor. And the concern with my neighbors is people get drunk, they start shooting, they start acting crazy. And this is a highly residential neighborhood of seniors, of young adults, of children, young children and teenagers. And we don't want anything like this happening in our neighborhood. We don't want anybody shot or killed because they're fighting over liquor. And we don't want any accidents because of driving under the influence. So I really feel this is not a good fit for our neighborhood at all.
If I could just ask one final question, Ms. Lozak. Mr. Schulten has a permit to manufacture spirits. There's no consumption other than 2-ounce tastings allowed per day. The fact that he told you, and you witnessed it, that he said that they had been holding many events there, including bachelor parties and retirement parties. Do you see that as a reason for revoking his liquor permit and violating the regulations and laws that regulate his distillery?
Objection.
Yes, he
to legal
definitely.
conclusion.
Yes, he did. He did violate. He's only supposed to manufacture. He's not supposed to serve it on the premises. And when he was holding these mini events, these bachelor and retirement parties, he actually served liquor. You know, he actually served probably more than 2 ounces at
That's all
these
I
events.
have.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lozak. Again, I'm going to try, encourage you to, try to stick to 5 minutes so everyone gets an opportunity to speak. Ms. Pereira, do you have another witness you would like to call?
Oh, I'm
Do we
sorry.
have witness a
I
question?
apologize. Does Mr. Burden get to cross or no?
Yeah,
Oh,
don't we get to cross in the?
I
commission?
Yes, I apologize.
I'm just trying to understand and make sure everything.
You're right. I apologize. First, I'll ask the commissioners. Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions?
Yes, I'd just like to ask the witness if she specifically heard the owner say directly that he was running events as in retirement parties.
Yes, he said during that tour, we were in, I guess, the main part of his distillery. And he did say that he was holding mini events, bachelor parties, and retirement parties.
That's the first. Okay, so you heard him directly say that.
Yes, yes, I did.
And did you actually feel that you were going to be hit? I know you alluded to people felt like they were going to be. Did you yourself feel like you were going to be hit by that vehicle?
There were 3 people from our group that were the closest, and he was going to hit them if he didn't stop. But I think what would have happened was he would have just plowed into all of us. He would have hit all of us.
You clearly felt they were in danger, correct?
Oh yes, definitely,
All right.
definitely. It definitely shook me. It definitely shook me up.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Attorney Burdon.
Thank you. Ms. Lozak, the premises we're talking about is located in an industrial zone, isn't that correct?
Yes, on Asylum Street.
Yeah, so all of Asylum Street is industrially zoned, correct?
I
sorry,
believe
in
so. I
that
believe
area.
it. Yes. It's
Okay.
industrial.
And across the street from the premises is a cemetery, correct?
Yes, Lakeview Cemetery.
And about a block or so away to the north along Asylum Street is the Bridgeport Transfer Station, correct?
Yes.
And you've never attended an event at the premises, have you?
No.
So all your testimony about any service in excess of the statutorily permitted amounts, that's pure supposition on your part, isn't that correct?
No, I heard him say that he held bachelor parties and retirement parties.
Understood. And is there a statutory, there's no statutory prohibition on holding a bachelor party or a retirement party in the premises, is there?
He's zoned just to make the liquor. He's not zoned for live entertainment, and he's not zoned to serve liquor.
Ms. Lozak, the zoning permits a distillery in that location, correct?
Yes, he did. He did get approved to have a distillery there. Yes.
Okay, and you're aware that under Connecticut statute, distilleries are able to provide tastings or samples of their product.
Yes.
And
2 ounces.
correct. And so again, you don't have any direct evidence that there was ever any service in excess of 2 ounces, correct?
Correct. I wasn't at any of these events, and I did not I did not consume any alcohol at that place.
Right. No, that's my point. And so you can't say that there was any violation of any beverage alcohol law concerning the service of alcohol on the premises, correct? Because you weren't there.
I can't say that because I wasn't there when these parties were going on.
That's my point. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lozak. Ms. Pereira, do you have another witness? I'm sorry, you're on mute.
I apologize. Carmen Ramos is on. If you can ask her to unmute herself.
What phone number is that? Is that the 376-77998?
Yes.
Okay.
She's driving back from California, going through the 3 time zones, so.
Ms. Ramos?
I've given her permission to unmute. Okay, there she is.
Hello?
Ms. Ramos?
Hi. Yeah, hi. This is Carmen Ramos.
Okay, were you sworn in at the beginning of our hearing?
No.
Okay, well, we do require all testimony to be under oath in your driving, but we do need you to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand.
I apologize. I just want to be clear. She's not driving. I just want to, I don't want anybody to think she's driving and testifying. Her husband's driving. She's the passenger.
Okay, well, please raise your right hand.
Yes.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Pereira?
Ms. Ramos, where do you reside?
I live in 50 Goddard Ave, Bridgeport, Connecticut.
We're having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you're on
I'm
speakerphone.
sorry.
Where do you
Yeah, my
reside?
address is 50 Goddard Ave,
Okay.
Bridgeport, Connecticut, 06610.
Mhm. Am I the duly elected city councilwoman representing you and all the residents of the 138th district?
Yes.
Are you a homeowner or a tenant? And how long have you owned or resided in your current home on Goddard Avenue?
The homeowner, I've owned 50 Goddard for over 23 years now.
Mhm. And how close do you live to the Fifth State Distillery?
I live just a block away, not even about a block.
Okay. Let's see. Did you participate in a press event held in front of Fifth State Distillery and the adjacent property on Asylum Street on Saturday, May 15th at approximately 9 a.m.?
Yes, I was there.
How did you learn about the press event? Did you speak with me or a POP member? How did you learn about it?
I heard it from you.
Did I leave a flyer promoting the event on your mailbox?
I received the flyer, yes.
Okay. How would you describe the conduct and behavior of all of our neighbors and participants at that press conference?
Well, they were well behaved, but very concerned about the situation. They felt the same way I did, very concerned.
Okay. Where were we standing as Frank Recchia was about to interview us?
I'm sorry, say that again? I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Where were we standing as Frank Recchia from News 12 was about to interview us?
We were on the sidewalk.
Mhm. Were we blocking the entrance to Fifth State Distillery in any way, shape, or form?
No.
What street were the participants' backs facing as we were speaking with reporter Frank Recchia from News 12? Our backs.
Our back was to the location, but we were facing the cemetery.
Right, but what was behind us? Do you know the street there? Do you know if it,
Hello?
yep, do you know which the name of the street is that was behind us?
No, I don't know that street that very well.
Does
Yeah,
Cogswell,
it's
does Cogswell Street refresh your memory?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, the Coswell is the side street, yes.
okay. What happened
Yeah.
next as Frank Recchia was preparing to interview us? We were facing Rockland and our backs were to Cogswell. What happened next?
Objection. She can't lead the witness.
Yeah.
It's her witness. She needs to
Hello?
be able to ask open-ended questions.
I said, what happened?
Yeah,
next?
you can hear me? Yeah, you can hear me?
You can proceed.
I had to put you on speaker. I hope you can hear me. So what we were doing is, while we were, Mr. Recchia was preparing to record, I heard coming from Coswell, because that's the only street that the car could have been coming from. I heard like a speeding of a horn, you know, somebody blowing the horn, and then all of a sudden the horn was coming like toward us. I mean, it was really frightening and threatening at the same time. It was actually coming towards Frank Recchia's back, and he just suddenly put his brake and broke real fast, you know, pressed the brakes. It was very scary, like I said, threatening. I thought, you know, we were gonna get run over. It was more like it felt like that's the intention, because if he's coming from Coswell, unless he was coming from the dump, that's the only way. And he was coming pretty fast, coming from just around the corner of Coswell to where we were at. So he was really giving it a lot of gas, you know, pedal.
Okay. Were you one of the three neighbors who were standing closest to the curb with Daniel and Andre Whaler, directly to my left, closest to the curb?
Yes, I was.
How close would you, what happened when Mr. Schulten reached our destination? What did he do?
Well, like I said, when he was speeding and turned and blowing the horn and stopped real quick, I saw his like face front end at the same time, because he noticed that he got close to almost really the first one to be hit would have been Frank Recchia. He jumped out of the car and put his arms around Frank Recchia and started, like, you know what I mean, talking to him like he was apologizing and asking him about his mother. But it was a reaction of somebody that kind of felt like screwed up, but it's just my reaction of his face. I saw him when he was coming furious and then stopping like that and then putting his arms around Frank Recchia wasn't like a normal reaction. It was more of, oh shoot, what did I do? You know, what am I, you know? And that was my reaction, other than we were all panicking, thinking this truck is coming towards us.
Mhm.
So it's scary, very
So-
scary.
As somebody who was closest to the vehicle, did you believe that you were close to being hit by Mr. Schulten?
Well, yes, yes, I felt that way. Yes.
Mhm. Did anyone damage, threaten, or attack Mr. Schulten, his vehicle, or his property?
No, not at all.
I'm sorry?
No, we didn't. Nobody did.
Mhm. When he got out of the vehicle, did he continue to display troubling behavior in communicating with us?
I'm gonna object again. She can't lead the witness through her entire testimony. She can ask her questions about what she observed and saw, but to have her lead the witness through the entire testimony is inappropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna-
Yeah. Well,
Ms. Pereira,
after he-
excuse me, let me
he
speak.
put it on over first. Yeah, he got a little agitated, violent, you know, like get out of my driveway. You're in my driveway. And we were not even in the driveway. We were on the sidewalk, not doing anything or blocking the driveway. And the only one that was kind of in the driveway was Frank Recchia, because he was getting ready to record us on the sidewalk. But
Okay.
he did get kind of loud and threatening, you know, and started, you know, making gestures like with his arm, like.
Okay. Are
Excuse
you-
me, Attorney Stiber, point of order moving forward. When there's an objection by anybody, would you like me to automatically mute the speaking witness to allow you to answer?
Yes, thank you.
Are you aware I filed a police report regarding Mr. Schulten's conduct and actions of Saturday, May 15th?
If I seen it, yes.
Are you aware?
Yes.
You're aware? Okay. Did I consult with you
Yes.
that Saturday prior to filing the police report?
No.
Did I call you later that day on the phone and speak to you about
Yes.
filing a police report?
Yes.
Did you agree that the police report should be filed?
Yes. Actually, I was very happy to realize that you did file a report. Yes.
Okay. Do you believe Mr. Schulten's liquor permit to manufacture spirits at Fifth State Distillery located at 259 O'Sallen Street should be revoked? And if so, why?
Yes. I've been here in this neighborhood for many years. Alcohol is a cause of many bad actions, violence, and it creates a bad environment. I mean, living in this neighborhood for so long, I've seen so many things going on, and this is adding to it, adding to a good neighborhood, you know, violence.
Mhm.
I just don't agree, and I don't want, other than the loud music, but the alcohol is a number cause of a lot of violence and fast driving and many accidents.
Okay, if I could just clarify, do you believe Mr. Schulten's conduct on May 15th, where he accelerated his vehicle at constituents just peacefully standing assembled on a sidewalk, is a basis for revocation of his permit?
Yes.
Why?
Why? Because if he reacts a certain way and violence toward us where we're not even on his property, he can react and allow other people to react in the same way. If I act aggressive in a certain way, then how can I control
the people in my location, you know, with calming them down when my violence is the same way. I just disagree. I don't feel that he has that control to control the environment and what's going on around him when he can't even control his feelings and his conduct. That's how I feel.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions?
Yes, ma'am. Have you or your husband ever been inside the facility?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Attorney Burdom?
Thank you. Mrs. Ramos, you said on Goddard Street or Avenue?
Yeah, Goddard Ave, yes.
And if Asylum runs in a generally north and south direction, Goddard does the same, right? They're parallel streets pretty much?
Yes.
And you're in fact 2 blocks away from the premises, correct?
No, it's really around one street, one corner, and that's where Asylum is.
Okay, but there's
I don't consider it to be 2 blocks, but
Hastings
yeah.
Hastings Street runs in a general north-south direction that's also parallel to Asylum Street, correct?
Yeah.
And so if you were going from east to west, it would be Asylum Street, then Hastings Street, and then Goddard Street.
Yeah, it's a small block, I guess. Yes, 2 blocks,
And
but it's very, very tiny. Yeah.
and Asylum Street in the area of the premises, that's in an industrial zone, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
And there's a cemetery across the street,
Yes.
and the transfer station is a short distance up the street on Asylum Street, correct?
Yeah.
And you said, I believe, that you were standing on the sidewalk with your back to the premises, correct?
I was actually like facing it in the back. It was like I was looking at Frank Recchia because he was gonna be preparing to speak.
So you were
to record us.
So you were facing the cemetery.
Well, I was like sideways, like I can still, like my back, like, I don't know how to say it. I was like facing, I can see the cemetery because I'm on the sidewalk. You're facing it, but my back was almost turned from him. And when I hear the horn and the speed, I turned sideways.
Okay.
But it was, you know what I mean? Like if I didn't look, it was totally my back. It's almost like my side.
So just,
I don't know how to say it, but I can still see the cemetery.
So just to be clear though, you were standing on the sidewalk, correct?
Yes.
And my client's vehicle was on the road, correct?
Yes.
Did my client's vehicle go onto the sidewalk?
No.
Okay.
It didn't
thank
get
you.
through, no.
Thank
No.
you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ramos. Ms. Pereira, do you have an additional witness?
Yes, I think Adriana Aristi is on 203-218-3012.
Ms.
Hi,
Aristi?
Adriana Aristi here.
Okay, Ms. Aristi, were you sworn in at the beginning of the remonstrance to
No.
speak? Okay, we do require all testimony is to be under oath. So I would ask you now to raise your right hand.
Yes,
Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
yes, I swear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms.
Thank you.
Pereira?
Ms. Aristi, what district do you reside in?
District 138.
Am I the duly elected city councilwoman representing you and all the residents of the 138th district?
Yes,
Are you a homeowner or a tenant? And how long have you owned or resided in your home?
I am a homeowner at 73 Pennsylvania Avenue. I have been there for 16 years.
Okay. Let's see. Did you participate in a press event held in front of Fifth State Distillery and the adjacent property on Asylum Street on Saturday, May 15th at approximately 9 a.m.?
Yes, I did.
How did you learn about the press event? Did you speak with any other POP members, or how did you learn about the press event?
Yes, I speak with other PAD members and I look at in the internet and I decide to go and participate.
Okay. How would you describe the conduct of all the participants, including yourself and me, as we were assembled in preparation for the press event?
Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was looking at the date to go see and then to participate because it's something that is gonna impact our neighborhood. And everybody was calm and expressing their opinion.
Mhm. Where were we assembled? Were we on any private property or we were on a public sidewalk? Where were we assembled?
We were in the sidewalk.
Mhm. Were we on any part of 259 Asylum Street where the distillery is located, or were we blocking the property in any way?
Not at all. It was no obstruction of the entrance or nothing like that. We were in a sidewalk and we were not in the street or in front of the driveway, nothing like that. We were in the sidewalk.
Okay. As we were preparing to be interviewed by Frank Recchia from News 12, what street were our backs facing? Our backs?
Asylum.
Behind behind you, Adriana, what street behind you? If I can refresh your memory, do you recall if it was Cogswell Street?
Yes, that's the name of the street. Yes.
Okay. As we were preparing to interview with Frank Recchia, what happened next when Mr. Schulten's pickup truck turned onto Asylum Street from Cogswell?
We were all together looking at Frank because he was getting ready to interview us. And when we heard the noise of the car accelerating towards us, and he didn't go in the sidewalk. Of course, we were there. If he go in the sidewalk, he's gonna hit people. But he was very close when he put the brakes. And when he get out of the car, he was very mad, and he looked like started screaming that he can go inside, that we were blocking his entrance to his business, or I don't know, whatever he was. He looked really mad.
Mhm.
And we just turned scared because he was blowing his horn, and he was, he's accelerating his vehicle towards us. And when he put the brakes, he was really, really close to us.
Mhm.
We just turned, like when you see that a car is coming, you didn't see it yet, but you can hear it. And we looked, and he was really close when he stopped.
How did he stop the car? Did he just tap the brake slowly? How did he stop his pickup?
No, he was really fast. He was really fast. His attitude towards us with the car. He was using his car like a weapon, and he was like his intention was like he want to intimidate us, scare us. And when he get out of the car, we can see his face. He was really, really mad, and he was nervous. He got very nervous when he saw Frank Recchia, because the way he was coming, he just saw us, but he didn't see that Frank Recchia was in front of us.
Mhm. Okay. Are you aware that I filed a police report regarding Mr. Schulten's conduct and actions of Saturday, May 15th?
Yes, completely agree with that. That's what's supposed to happen.
Did you receive a copy of and read the police report? And did you agree with my filing the report on behalf of myself?
Yes,
and constituents?
absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Do you believe Mr. Schulten's liquor permit to manufacture spirits at Fifth State Distillery located at 259 Asylum Street should be revoked? And if so, why?
Yes, I think that a person that behaved that way that he behaved that day towards us, that we were doing nothing wrong. We just expressing our concerned about the place. We were in the sidewalk. If a person can behave like that with that in that manner, so trying to intimidate us, I don't think that a person had the character to have a place where you're gonna sell liquor and people is gonna. I mean, he can control himself. I can imagine him controlling customers or people driving reckless or drinking in a place like that. I don't think that a place like that's supposed to be in our neighborhood.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on, Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions?
Have you ever been inside the facility?
Ms. Aris,
Muted.
I'm sorry.
Adriana?
She's muted.
can you unmute yourself, please? Thank you.
Yes.
Have you ever been inside the facility?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
Oh, I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Bourdon, do you have any questions?
Just a couple quick ones. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name when she said it. If you just repeat your name, please.
Adriana Aristy.
I'm sorry, the last name is?
Aristy, Aristy.
Aristi. Miss Aristi,
Yes.
what was your address? I didn't quite get that.
It's 73 Pennsylvania Avenue.
I'm sorry, what was the street again?
73 Pennsylvania Avenue.
73 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yes.
How far away from the premises is that?
Maybe 4 blocks. I'm not sure how far.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Okay,
Actually,
thank
no, I do have one quick question. Ms. Arista, you're opposed to the patio that was being proposed for to add onto the premises?
I'm sorry, I thought we were
Yes.
discussing the lease. I object. He's objected to everything about the lease and now he's asking about the patio.
Yeah,
I did.
Oh.
my
Mhm.
understanding is that this remonstrance is not regarding the patio.
I was just asking in terms of bias, that's all.
Mhm.
Can I ask the question or?
You can ask the question, but again, everyone has to remember, we afford everything the way it's due, given
No.
the scope
I-
of the remonstrance.
No, I understand it.
Okay,
So you oppose the construction of the proposed patio
Yes.
and you're working towards that end?
Well, I work and from everything that can go against the peace and safety of our neighborhood.
Okay, I have nothing further. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Ms. Aristi. Ms. Piera, do you have another witness?
Yes, I'd like to call Andre Whaley, who I believe is calling in from 203-685-4531.
Hello?
Mr. Whaley, were you sworn in at the beginning of the remonstrance?
I was not. You can swear me in now.
Okay. If you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly
Yes.
swear? Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you are about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pereira?
Mr. Whaley, are you a resident of the 138 district?
Yes, I am.
Am I your duly elected city councilwoman representing you and all the residents of the 138 district?
Yes, you do.
Are you a homeowner or tenant And if so, how long have you owned or resided in your home?
I'm a homeowner, and I think I've been there for about 5 years now.
Okay. Were you invited to participate in a tour of Fifth State Distillery on Saturday, May 8th? And if so, did you attend?
Yes, I did, and I attended.
Who else was present?
There was Maria Pereira, Michelle. There was Bill Coleman. There was the owner, his wife, the son. There was another city councilwoman, her name slips my mind, and another lady that walks with Maria Pereira. She's the I think I forgot her name. Helen. Helen.
And does it refresh your memory that the other city councilwoman present was Samia Suleiman?
Samia, that's her name. Samia came a little late, actually.
Okay. All right. Was the tour cordial, contentious, hostile in any way?
No, the tour was very nice. They were very, very nice people when we met them. When I met them, they were very, very nice. It was not hostile in the least bit.
Okay. During the tour, did people veer off? Did we stay together at all times, or did people veer off into separate clusters?
We definitely veered off. I veered off to separate clusters. I was talking to the owner's wife a little bit, but I was not with them at the entire time.
Okay.
But we basically stayed together for the group, but we did veer off at times.
Okay. Did you hear Mr. Schultz make any unsolicited remarks regarding the laws that govern his distillery?
Yes, he did say they were a highly, highly regulated industry. And those are his words exactly. There was a highly regulated industry.
Okay. What specifically did you hear Mr. Schultz say when I was asking him about his experience with entertainment venues versus his current business as a distillery? Because the patio would mean he'd have to convert with the zoning regs. So
I heard him say that he's hosted many events before, and one of those events were bachelor parties.
have you ever attended a bachelor party where alcohol was not served?
No, I have not.
Okay. How about a retirement party? Have you ever attended a retirement party where alcohol wasn't served?
No, I have not.
Okay. When I raised issues around the lack of parking on the property and it creating issues on the neighboring residential streets, what was Mr. Schulten's response in addressing my concerns related to parking?
In his experience, he said that people Uber there. The millennials and younger people, and people of my generation, they Uber to a lot of the bars that they go to. I did have a question. I actually I was talking to his wife at that same time, and I was like, really? Because I've never Ubered any place, you know? We always have a designated driver or something, but I never Ubered someplace. And she said, yes, that's the new thing. So they said in their experiences, what they've been seeing is Uber.
And why would
Right.
anybody I'm sorry, I apologize. What was the basis as to why somebody would be Ubering or Lyfting? Because he said it was to avoid what?
Objection.
I'm sorry.
I think it's calling for speculation. I mean, the
No.
question was calling for speculation.
Mm.
Yeah, I've given a lot of leeway, but you really need to just ask a direct question.
Okay, what was the basis for he said there was a basis for why his patrons Uber and Lyft. What was that basis?
The system was asking me to unmute the microphone. Can you please repeat your question?
Okay. He stated there was a reason why his patrons use Uber and Lyft. What was that reason?
Well, they drink. They drink. It's safer.
Okay. Let's see. Did you participate in a press event held in front of Fifth State Distillery and the adjacent property on Asylum Street on Saturday, May 15th at approximately 9 a.m.?
I did.
Okay. How would you describe the conduct and behavior of the participants?
It was honestly, it was shocking. It was shocking. It was appalling. It was hard
Oh, wait,
to
wait,
believe
I
that that was
apologize. I'm sorry. The participants at the press event. Our
the
neighbors, you,
participants.
the participants.
Oh, so I was a part of the participants, and we were just standing there, basically talking. We're half on the sidewalk, half in front of the driveway, but the driveway gate was locked, and we were just basically chatting. Frank Recchia came. Frank Recchia asked us to stand in a certain formation, so almost like a half moon kind of. We stood there. We were talking
Mhm.
very peacefully.
Were we standing on a public sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay. What street were the participants' backs facing as we were speaking with reporter Frank Recchia from News 12? Our backs.
Our back. So I don't have the exhibit in front of me where I can look at that. My back was
Would it refresh
towards
your
the dump.
memory? Would it refresh your memory if I say Cogswell Street?
You can't testify for the guy. I've got to object to that.
Yeah.
You
no,
can't
I
refresh
was-
his recollection by giving him the answer. That's
Okay,
just-
Madam, Ms. Tiber, can we put up Exhibit 3, which shows the location in front of Fifth State Distillery?
Okay.
I don't know if Mr. Whaley's on by video conference though.
Oh, he's, okay.
He's not, so he's not going to be able to see it. I mean, I
Yeah.
can pull it up.
Okay. Mr. Whaley, were we facing the direction of Boston Avenue?
I was facing the direction of Boston Avenue. The dump was behind me.
Okay. What happened next as Frank Recchia was preparing to interview us when Mr. Schulten turned onto Asylum Street?
All right. So as I remember it, Frank Recchia was preparing to interview. He was working on your microphone, I believe, at the time, something along those lines. He was getting us ready. My back was toward the dump, and all of a sudden, I heard a car rev up, and the horn beep, and I jumped, and I was very scared because I thought I was going to get hit. And at the same time, as I turned around and jumped, the car came very, very close to hitting me. And three or four other people that was next to me.
Mhm. Did Mr. Schulten bring the car to a stop slowly, suddenly? How was the vehicle stopped?
It was stopped abruptly. It was, you know what? I've been driving for a very long time, since I was 16 years old, and I would never feel comfortable driving at anything at that rate and then stopping short on my brakes.
Mhm. Were you standing closest to the curb, one of the three people standing closest to the curb?
Yes.
Mhm. And were you,
Yes.
how close was the vehicle to you when it came to a halt?
I gotta say about a foot.
Mhm.
I didn't have a measuring tape. I didn't have a ruler or a measuring tape or any of those things. However, what I can say, it was close. It was too close to comfort.
Uh-huh. And how did
Too
you,
close to comfort.
what was your reaction and how did you feel when that occurred?
So first I had to gather myself because I was really shaken up, really, really shaken up, and everything happened so fast. But as I was catching my breath and I realized what was going on, he came out the car and he clearly was really, really upset. He was upset. I don't want to say the word irate, but this was definitely not the guy that I met at the distillery that day. The guy that I met at the distillery was a really, really nice guy. Very, very, very sweet, likable guy. The guy that almost hit me with his car was an angry man with his chest poked out. His eyes were like this inflamed, and he was angry. He went over to Frank. Frank was doing something with the microphone. He actually grabbed Frank's hand to shake it, and without, it's COVID. We're doing a lot of fist bumps. He actually went and reached and grabbed his hand. The guy was angry. Even Frank's partner, who works with him, I believe he's autistic too. Very nice guy, but he was scared. with the situation and even jumped in between Frank and the guy with his arm and said, "You need to calm down, sir. You need to calm down."
Mhm,
It was definitely a hostile, a little bit of a wild situation.
mhm. Did anyone damage, threaten, or attack Mr. Schulten, his vehicle, or his property?
Absolutely not.
Mhm. Are you aware that I filed a police report on behalf of myself and the constituents present at that event?
I am aware of that,
Mhm.
as
And
it should have been done.
did I consult with you prior to filing the police report? And did you receive a copy of it and read the police report?
I did receive a copy. We talked about it before, and I agree that it should have been done.
Do you-
It wasn't a good. I was scared. I was literally scared.
Mhm. And do you believe Mr. Schulten's liquor permit to manufacture spirits at Fifth State Distillery located at 259 on Silent Street should be revoked? And if so, why?
You know, I do believe it should be revoked. In the beginning, when we were talking about it, when I met them, you know, they were very, very nice people. You know, you take people at their word. You take people at their word, face value. First impressions are everything. First impression was very nice, but the person that I met that day was scary. It was scary, and his actions were meant to intimidate. And right now, I feel that Mr. Schultz his point in doing that was to intimidate me and my neighbors and people in my district. For what reason, I don't know. I'm not a man where I really fear people, but you know, he had a car. You know, I was standing outside with a group of people on the sidewalk, and he came at us with the car. I don't know how. That's a weapon. He shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be there. Not if he's intimidating the people. And you know, he's a business owner in the area, and if he's intimidating, listen, I go to bars every now and then. That's not someone who I would want to support. Not doing that. I haven't felt threatened like that in a very long time, which is why I'm happy you made a police report. But that just wasn't cool, and I don't support it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pereira, did you have any other questions?
No, I could be crossed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
Yes, just to clarify, Mr. Whaley, thank you for coming today. Have you ever been in the Fifth Street Distillery and seen any of the parties that have allegedly been hosted?
No, I have not. I've only heard about him from him.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Biletto, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Burdon?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Whaley. I'm sorry, I don't know if you mentioned it, but what is your address?
181 Wessels Avenue.
I'm sorry, what was the avenue again?
181 Wessels Avenue.
Wessels?
Wessels with a W.
Yep. And how far away from the premises is that?
I want to say maybe a mile, maybe a little less.
And I believe you testified during that press event, half of you were standing on the sidewalk and half of you were standing in the driveway. Is that correct?
Yes. Not too far into the driveway. We're on a sidewalk. A couple of them were in front of the driveway where the gate was locked.
Okay. No one was standing in the street, right?
No one was standing in the street.
And did my client's vehicle ever leave the street? Other than when he obviously went into the driveway?
Of course, when he crossed the threshold, but your client's vehicle came awfully close to me, and I was on the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Whaley. Ms. Pereira, do you have another witness?
Yes, I'd like to call Michelle Small. I believe her number is 203-556-1259.
I believe there's a woman who named herself Michelle.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Small, were you here to be sworn in at the beginning of the remonstrance?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, well, all testimony must be given under oath. So at this point, I'm going to administer the oath to you. If you could
Okay.
please- Okay, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly,
Okay.
do you solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Pereira?
Ms. Small, do you reside in the one, I'm sorry, Ms. Small, where do you reside? In what district?
I resided in 138 at 10 Menzel Circle, Bridgeport, Connecticut, 06610.
Okay, and are you a member of the neighborhood group called Protect Our Property, or POP?
Yes.
Mhm. Am I your duly elected city councilwoman representing you and all the residents of the 138th district?
Yes.
Are you a homeowner or a tenant? And if
I
so,
am.
how long have you owned or resided in your home?
I am a homeowner. I've been in my home for 19 years.
Okay. Were you invited to participate in a tour of Fifth State Distillery on Saturday, May 8th?
Yes.
Did you attend?
Yes.
Who else was present?
You were Maria Pereira. It was Andre, Frank Recchia, and a couple of other homeowners in the area that I'm not familiar with their names.
Okay, I just want to be clear. We're talking about the tour of the distillery, not the press event.
Oh, the distillery. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it was Helen Lozak. It was myself. It was Andre. It was you, and it was Samia, and the other city council guy. He was tall. I forgot his name.
I believe you're talking.
Along with. Mhm.
I believe you're talking about municipal employee Bill Coleman.
Yes, and then also Mr. and Mr. Schultz with their son.
It's Schulten, thank you.
Yes, Shelton. Yes.
Was the tour cordial, contentious, hostile? How would you describe it?
It was very cordial. I really enjoyed the tour.
Mhm. Did everyone participating in the tour always remain together, or did participants veer off into separate clusters?
We very often separate clusters at times.
Okay. Did you hear Mr. Schulten make any unsolicited remarks regarding the laws that govern his distillery?
Well, yes, he did say that he did retirement parties there, okay, like that bachelor parties there, okay, at his facility.
But did you hear him say anything about the laws that govern his distillery that he must abide by?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay. What specifically did you hear Mr. Schulten say when I was asking him about his experience as an entertainment venue versus a distillery? What did he say?
Oh, that sometimes he did do parties there at his distillery.
Do you
But
remember?
he-
I'm sorry, do you remember what type of parties?
Yeah, bachelor parties he did and retirement parties he said there.
Okay. Have you ever attended a retirement party where alcohol wasn't served?
Every time I go to one, there's alcohol served.
Okay. Okay, let's see. When I raised the issue around the lack of parking on the property and it creating issues on the neighborhood residential streets, what was Mr. Schulten's response in addressing my concerns related to parking?
Oh, that they could park on the side of the by the cemetery and on the side where he was. But to me, it wasn't efficient enough because there wasn't enough parking.
Right. Did he raise any other potential ways that people could get to and from his establishment without driving there them personally?
Oh, Uber or what's the other one? I forget the other one. I'm not familiar because I have my car. Yeah,
And-
with Uber, yeah. Mhm.
And why was it important that people use Uber or Lyft? What was his reasoning for that?
Oh, when they drink and they get, intoxicated, they have a way to get home, a safer way.
Okay. Let's see. On Monday, May 10th, did you participate in the neighborhood canvas handing out flyers about the proposal at Fifth State Distillery?
Yes,
Okay. Did you participate in a press event held in front of Fifth State Distillery and the adjacent property on Asylum Street on Saturday, May 15th at approximately 9 a.m.?
that is correct. I sure did.
Okay. How would you describe the conduct of the participants, yourself, me, and our neighbors?
Well, we handled ourselves in a decent and a manageable way, okay, at the time of the press conference. We were there on the sidewalk, and we was, Frank Recker was putting the mic on you. Then Mr. Shelton, is that correct?
Yes, I believe that's how you
Yeah.
pronounce his name.
Mr. Shelton came up in his car with his son in the car. He came up there in the fast manner. When he seen us, he stepped on his brake real fast. Him and his son jogged forward, okay, in the car when he stopped, on his brakes. And I looked and I said, oh my God, I gotta get my foster child out the way before he hit her, okay, like that, right? So I ran to get my foster child and put her over there in back of me where I was standing. And when I looked at Mr. Shelton in the face, his demeanor had changed. He was very mad that we was there. And I don't understand why he was mad why we were there. We were not, okay, by the gate. We were on the side, okay, on the sidewalk.
When Mr. Shelton approached, were our backs facing Coswell Street where he approached?
It was facing, our backs was facing Caldwell Street.
Mm-hmm. And so what did you specifically hear? Because our backs were facing Mr. Shelton as he approached.
The way he was driving real fast, accelerating his car and stepping on the brakes real fast, okay, to stop from trying to, to hit people.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear
And
any noise? Did you hear any other noise?
Yes, I heard other noise like the tire was screeching. And then Mr. Shelton got out the car. And then when he realized Frank Grecia was there, he was talking to Frank Grecia and asked him how was his mother doing. And I found that very embarrassing because his mother has been deceased for a couple of months.
Okay. What was your personal reaction to Mr. Shelton's behavior? How did you feel?
I felt very threatened, okay, by his, okay, driving up and the way his demeanor looked. And I was, looking out for the safety of my foster child, really, not concerning me, because I'm responsible for her. And I said to myself, well, I got to get her to safety and out of this way because we don't know what he's going to do next.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware that I filed a police report regarding Mr.
Yes.
Shelton's conduct?
Yes.
From May 15th. Did I consult with you at
Yes.
breakfast right after that event?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree with the filing of the police report, and have you read the police report?
Yes, I have. I agreed with everything you put on that police report.
Okay. Do you believe Mr. Shelton's liquor permit to manufacture spirits at Fifth State Distillery located at 259 Asylum Street should be revoked? And if so, why?
Yes, I do think it should be revoked because he didn't handle himself in a professional way at all. Okay, if I, and I felt threatened, and then I was looking out for the safety of my foster child, and then there's other, okay, residents and homeowners that were there also that felt threatened, and we didn't feel safe. So how can he have, an outdoor event there at his distillery in the manner that he wasn't in control? So that means he's not going to be able to control the constituents that's going to be there.
Mm-hmm. And based on his own statements, where he stated that he was hosting bachelor parties and retirement parties, is that concerning for you as well?
Yes, it was concerning for me.
Objection is the form.
I'll allow it.
Yes, I thought, I said to myself, wait a minute, he's supposed to be a manufacturing, he's not supposed to be hosting parties and stuff there. He doesn't have license for that.
Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, Commissioner Beletto, do you have any questions?
Yes, ma'am. Have you ever been inside the facility when it was open?
Yes, that is correct.
Did you attend one of these parties?
Oh, no.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner McKinney?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Burdon?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Smalls. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How far away from the premises do you live?
I live a couple of blocks away from there. Okay, it's maybe it takes me about 3 minutes or 4 minutes to get to Asylum Street.
Is that
from where I
driving?
live.
Is that
Driving.
driving?
Yes,
Okay,
driving.
so 3 or 4 minutes drive away?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you said you were in your car?
No, I wasn't in my car. I was on the side of the
No,
sidewalk.
no, no, no. Right now, you're in your car.
No, I'm at work. I'm at work.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks. And did you do anything to prepare for your testimony here today?
No, I didn't do nothing.
Okay, did you talk to Ms. Pereira at all?
No.
Did she
I'm
give
at
you? Go ahead.
I've been at work all day since 6 o'clock this morning.
Okay, I'm not talking about today, but prior to today, did you do anything to prepare for your testimony?
No.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Small.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
Ms. Pereira, do you have any additional witnesses? I'm sorry, you're on mute.
I hope he's still on. He's been waiting quite a long time. I believe Daniel Vadi is on, and his number would be 203-449-0289.
He should be there. Let me ask him to unmute.
Mr. Vadi, are you there?
I see his number. Can you direct him how to unmute?
I sent him a specific invitation to unmute. So he can either click that or just manually unmute himself.
I think he's on a landline, so does he have to hit *6?
I'm not sure about a landline, to be honest.
If it's like Zoom, you have to hit *6 to unmute yourself.
This is Zoom. Yeah. Okay. So *6. That would be great.
I see his number there.
I think it's actually *9.
*9 raises your hand normally. *6 unmutes. Mr. Vadi, if you can hear me, can you press the asterisk sign and 6 on your phone?
He hung up.
Yes, some of our constituents aren't the most technology savvy. Can we have a brief recess, madam?
Okay, why don't we take a 5-minute recess?
Thank you. I appreciate your understanding.
Okay.
I'll
it is-
pause the recording once you're
Okay.
done.
Okay, thank you. It is now 3:01. We'll reconvene at 3:06.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Pereira, were you able to get a hold of Mr. Betty?
Yes, he says he's here waiting. I think he's waiting to get in. There's his number again.
Okay. He's again on mute.
Oh,
There you are. Okay.
Ready.
Mr. Betty, were you
Yes.
sworn in at the beginning of this proceeding?
No.
Okay, well, all testimony is given under oath, so I'm going to administer the oath to you now. If you could please raise your
Yes.
right hand.
Yes.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pereira?
it's pronounced Vadi. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm asking him. Is it Daniel Vadi?
Yes, correct.
I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing. Okay, Mr. Vadi, where do you reside?
38 Cogswell Street in
Mhm.
Bridgeport.
Okay. Are you a homeowner
I've
or?
been living,
I'm sorry.
I'm a homeowner. I've been here 25 years at this address.
Okay. Am I your duly elected city councilwoman representing you and the residents of the 138 district?
Yes.
Mhm. Let's see, give me 1 second. Did you participate in a press event held in front of Fifth State Distillery and the adjacent property on Asylum Street on Saturday, May 15th at approximately 9 a.m.?
Yes, I did.
And how were you informed of the event? How did you know that there was going to be a press event there?
I think you had mentioned it to me a few weeks before that you were canvassing the area, and you gave me some information on it. That it was going to be the
that he wanted to open up, besides the distillery, he wanted to do entertainment, apply for a different type of liquor license, whatever.
Okay. If I can refresh your memory, did you attend the press conference? Because there was a flyer left on your door or mailbox?
I'm gonna object.
You really are leading the witness. I really, I've been very, lenient, but you really just have to ask a question and allow them to answer it.
Okay. At the press event, how would you describe the conduct and behavior of the participants, including yourself and the other people from the neighborhood?
Everybody was, acting normal. We were talking, just getting ready to be interviewed by Frank Recchia. And that was it. We were just standing there with our backs towards Cogswell Street
Okay.
that day, that morning.
Where were we standing?
We were standing, our backs were facing Cogswell Street, and we were facing towards Boston Avenue. And we were I was maybe a foot from the sidewalk on the street, maybe a foot, no more than that. There was a lady standing next to me on my left, and Andre was on my right.
Were we
We
standing?
gathered around.
I apologize.
Go ahead.
Were we standing on any private property?
Any what property?
Were we standing on anyone's private property?
No, we were on the sidewalk.
Okay. As Frank Recchia was preparing us to interview us, what happened next when Mr. Schulten turned onto Asylum Street?
Well, I heard a vehicle coming sort of fast, and then sort of leaned on that horn and slammed his brakes. I'd say about a foot from where I was standing. And Andre was on my right, and I don't know this lady's name that was on my left. My opinion is, since he lives in Southport, he takes 95 north, gets off Seaview Avenue, because I've seen his truck get off Seaview Avenue in the mornings many a times. He probably came down Asylum Street, saw what was going on, went around the corner, turned on that side street before his business, turned on Hastings, and came around to sneak up behind us.
I've got to object on that. That's all entirely speculative.
I agree. That's pure speculation. So you can't speculate. You have to, ask the question answer the question that's asked.
So our backs were
Yes.
facing Cogswell Street.
Correct.
We're facing Frank Recchia. He's about to interview us. And then Mr.
Correct.
Schulten turned onto Asylum Street. What happened next from your recollection?
Well, I heard the vehicle coming sort of fast. You can hear the engine. All of a sudden, he jammed his brakes, the tire screeched a little bit, and blew the horn. He was on that horn, to scare us, to intimidate us. Then all of a sudden, he got out. He said, "Get off. You're blocking the gate." We weren't blocking the gate. The gate was closed anyway. Then he went over he noticed that Frank Recchia was there, so he went over to Frank, shook his hand, and asked him about his mother. "How's your mother doing?" And the guy was he was out of hand.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said
sorry.
he was out of hand. He got out the truck. Hello?
Yep, I'm listening.
Oh, yeah, that he got out of the truck when he saw that Frank Recchia was there, and he went to shake his hand and asked about his mother. And Frank was sort of red, and the guy that's with Frank, tried to get in between them.
Were you
That's it.
closest to the curb in the group that was assembled? Were you closest to the curb?
Yes, I was.
And how close do you think the vehicle was to you when it came to a halt, when Mr. Schulten put on the brake?
Oh, geez. I would say maybe 2 feet.
And how did you feel in that moment?
Well, I was scared. My heart started pounding when I turned. my head and I saw that vehicle on top of me almost 2 feet away.
Mhm. Okay.
And I'm sure
Are
everybody
you
else was.
Are you aware that I filed a police report regarding Mr. Schultz's conduct and actions from Saturday, May 15th?
Yes,
Do you support the filing of that police report?
yes, I do.
Mhm. And do you believe Mr. Schultz's liquor permit to manufacture spirits at Fifth State Distillery located at 259 Asylum Street should be revoked? And if so, why?
Yeah, yes, I think they should. If the way he acted like that on that day, can you imagine if he's got problems on the property with people that are intoxicated, how he's gonna act? Or if somebody tries to, do something to him or his son or whatever, like if he acts that way on the road, can you imagine in his business? If people are drinking and get intoxicated.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions?
The same thing. Sure. Have you ever been inside the facility while it's been open for a party?
No,
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McKinney, any questions?
No questions. Thank you for testifying.
Okay,
welcome.
Attorney Burdon?
Just a couple of short questions. Good afternoon, Mr. Vadi. My name's Peter Burdon. How are you?
Good, and you?
Well, thank you. So, Mr. Vadi, you said you were the one that was standing closest to Asylum Street on the sidewalk?
Yes, I was like a foot away from the sidewalk.
You mean a foot away from the curb?
Yes, a foot away from the curb.
And so your
Andre was to my right.
Andre was to your right,
Yes,
and so no one was to your left.
there was a young lady very close to me, mostly mainly in front of me.
Okay. And so there were 11 people standing to your, 10 other people standing to your right?
Yes, I didn't get the exact count of how many were there, but around a dozen.
I believe
11 or 12 people.
11 or 12 people. And those 11 or 12 people, they were facing, you said Boston Avenue with their backs to Cogswell Street?
Correct.
And you were standing side by side?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
side by side. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vadi. Ms. Pereira, do you
All
have
right,
any
thank
other
you.
witnesses?
I do not. Thank you. Oh, I don't know if
Okay.
there's anybody who just joined the call that I'm not calling who wants to testify, but I don't have any witnesses per se.
I
Attorney
can,
Anderson,
if anybody who is on, who's a remonstrant who wants to testify, could you just raise your hand? Should just be able to kind of scroll over your name and raise your hand. Or I can just kind of go down and read off names. There's an 203-685-4531 number. I'm not sure if that's someone we already called. Ms. Pereira, do you know?
331?
The last digits are 4531.
Yes, that's Mr. Whaley. He already
Okay.
offered testimony.
And then there's another number. The last three digits are 1256.
I don't recognize that number.
Okay, because they're on phone. Let me just unmute them. So would the person who has joined us from 1603-630-1256, if you'd like to talk, you can unmute yourself and speak now. If you'd like. Nope, they hung up. Oh no, they're still there. Nope, yep, okay. Hi.
hello. Hi, can you identify
Hello,
yourself?
Nelson Vargas.
Okay, can you spell that? What your last name? It's Nelson. Your last
Vargas,
name?
V-A-R-G-A-S, V-A-R-G-A-S.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Vargas, do you want to testify today?
Yes,
Okay, were you here at the beginning of the remonstrance to be sworn in?
no,
Okay, well, all testimony is given under oath, so I'll administer the oath right now. If you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence, okay, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give concerning the case now in question shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
yes, I swear.
Okay, Mr. Vargas, you're free to speak in relation to the remonstrance.
Okay, first of all, I live off of Hastings Street, number 87 Hastings Street. If anyone know where is 87 is, I live right across the street from the commercial building. It's about 125 feet from the fence. And the reason why I'm calling is because I'm living there for almost 22 years in that street. And we never had this kind of situation that we had to dispute any companies. You know, I know the city of Bridgeport, they like to do business, but that kind of business, I don't think is the best for that area. The people who owns that company, I'm wondering where they live. If somebody can answer that question for me, where they live?
I'm sorry, what is your question?
The question is the people who owns the company who's going to put the patio almost in front of my property, where those people live.
Okay, well, Mr. Vargas, this remonstrance does not concern the patio. And, you know, this is your opportunity to you know, speak on the issue of the existing remonstrance, not the issue of the patio. And not to ask questions. I'm sorry?
All right. If that is okay, if that's the situation, what you wanted me to tell about the company what's the questions?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
I just want to know what you want me to tell about the business. You know, we don't want a business like that in front of my property. That's the thing. You know, I'm opposed to the business and the patio. Totally.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Ms. Pereira, do you have any questions for Mr. Vargas?
Mr. Vargas? Today's hearing is in regards to revoking the liquor permit for Fifth State Distillery located at 259 Asylum Street. Do you support revoking the liquor permit? And if so, why?
I'm against, you know, I oppose about the permit and just listening. I wasn't there the day when they had the meeting. My wife was there and she told me all what happened. And, you know, I was going to go, but I was a little bit busy. So she went there and just listen to the people and see and hear what kind of reaction that kind of businessman has. I'm against that. You know, I really, you know, support that the license had to be revoked.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto?
Sir, were you ever inside the facility?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Attorney Burdon?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Vargas.
Okay, I'll continue to go down the list. DCP personnel, Bill Coleman.
He is on our witness list, but I mean, he can.
Okay, then
now,
we'll
too.
hold
He can
him.
talk. He can talk now too if he wants to. I mean, he's not. You don't necessarily need to call him. He can talk now if he wants.
I mean, technically, we're in the remonstrance case, so we can wait on him. DCP DD Mack. I don't know if she will like to speak.
Ms. Mack, you're on mute. Do you wish to speak? Ms. Mack, do you wish to testify today?
She's not muted, but we can't hear her. So I'm going to assume no. Ms. Mack, we're going to move on, but if you want to say something, please send a chat and I'll monitor it. Okay. DCP, 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 MA. Person who logged on identified as MA. If you are a remonstrant and you wish to talk, now would be your opportunity.
Just viewing as a member of the public.
Thank you. I'm gonna mute you again.
Thank you.
Okay, I think Brian Lockhart, I think I missed you. If you are a remonstrant and you'd like to speak.
I'm a reporter.
Okay, so no. All right. Well, that is everybody who is a non-DCP member who is on the list. So.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pereira, unless you have anything else, I'm going to turn it over now to Attorney Burdone.
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Attorney Burdone, I am now turning this matter over to you.
If I can just interject before Attorney Burdone begins his case in chief. As a housekeeping matter, department wants to note that this permit expires effective today. And because of the remonstrance coinciding with the permit reorganization process, we would be unable to, and normally we would keep these in status, active in renewal, and just sort of hold them in abeyance sort of until the resolution of the remonstrance. But because of the permit conversion and the change in permit sort of designation that we have to do, we're unable to do that without the permission of the commission. So I did want to flag that, and DCP would ask that we be granted permission to treat this permit as we do all other permits that face a remonstrance upon renewal and be allowed to sort of keep it active in renewal status.
Okay. I don't have an objection to that. Commissioner McKinney, do you have an objection?
I have no objection.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto, do you have an objection?
I do not.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. So pending the outcome of the remonstrance, the department will then either take action in accordance with the commission's decision of either revocation or conversion into the new permit type. Great. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Attorney Burdone.
Thank you. At this point, Mr. Coleman can be unmuted.
Can you hear me okay? Bill Coleman, City of Bridgeport, Department of Ec.
I'm giving you video permission because you're on, not via phone. So you can actually you can turn on your video too.
Hello.
Oh, there it is.
Good afternoon, Mr. Coleman.
Good afternoon, attorney.
I just want to make sure you were sworn in at the beginning of this proceeding.
I was.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Coleman, can you tell us what your position is with the City of Bridgeport?
Yes, I am in the Office of Planning and Economic Development, where I serve as a Deputy Director for Regulations and Enforcement.
And how long have you served in that position?
Approximately 5.5 years.
And are you familiar with the subject premises at 259 Asylum Street in Bridgeport?
Yes.
How's that property zoned?
The light industrial.
And is the operation of a distillery there, is that a permitted use?
Yes, it is.
And if we could have brought up on the screen Exhibit 5, please. Mr. Coleman, who's Dennis Buckley?
Dennis Buckley is the zoning administrator, so the head of the zoning office for the city of Bridgeport.
And can you identify this letter for us, please?
Yes, this is Dennis's letter. It's effectively a zoning compliance letter submitted in response to your request. That's the status on the property.
Thank you. I'd offer it as an exhibit, please.
Attorney Anderson, I'm not sure what number we're at or what.
It would be Commission D as in dog.
Okay, thank you. We'll have that marked Commission Exhibit D.
Madam Chair, I would like to cross-examine Dennis Buckley on this memorandum. Will he be with us here today?
Well, you Attorney Burden will direct, and then you have the opportunity to cross, it's just the opposite of how we've been doing it. So every witness that's called, you'll have an opportunity to question.
Okay, so I look forward to crossing Dennis Buckley.
Okay, Attorney Burdon.
Thank you. Can we bring up Exhibit 4? Mr. Coleman, showing you Respondents Exhibit 4 for identification, and ask if you recognize that as a section of the Bridgeport zoning map in the area of the premises.
Yes, I do.
And the arrow that is highlighted on the more or less upper kind of left center of that photograph, is that indicating the premises location?
Yes, it is.
I'd offer it as an exhibit.
Okay, we'll mark that as Commission Exhibit E.
Mr. Coleman, just to give a sense as to the location of this premises, it's located in the light industrial zone.
Yes.
And directly across the street, there's a cemetery, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And up the street north of Cogswell Street, what's located there?
There's, as you head north from the property, it's there's a steel fabrication plant, then there's Unger Industries, then there's the city's transfer station.
And have you had any interactions at all with Fifth State Brewery?
Yes.
Can you describe what those interactions have been?
They have been related to my duties in the Economic Development Office. We've interacted, and other members of the office have interacted with Bridget and Rob Schulten in support of their business over the years. That's allowed me to visit the facility on a couple of occasions. It occasioned my visiting the Connecticut General Assembly a couple of years back, where the Assembly was debating some modifications to law relating to craft distilleries, craft breweries. And I appeared in front of the relevant committee and offered testimony as to the positive impact that this particular business and these kinds of business generally meant to a city like Bridgeport, and spoke to the general trend and growth of these types of businesses. And at the time, argued in favor of some additional flexibility to allow these businesses to continue to grow. And then more recently, we've interacted with Fifth State as we, in my office and the Planning and Economic Development Office, were executing the demolition of the adjacent city-owned property that's been mentioned at 80 Hastings, which was an old factory. And as we moved forward with the demolition, we spoke with Rob and Bridget Schulten, as well as with the other neighbors, about the progress of the job and addressed any concerns they had as the demolition was occurring. And then subsequent to that, and most recently, we began a discussion with the Schultens about the possibility of entering into a lease for a portion of the slab that remains after the demolition that was done. And that portion is a 30 by 100-foot corner of the slab that's adjacent to the existing distillery. So we talked about what that proposal would look like. We worked on the concept with them together and then brought that conceptual proposal and a lease agreement to the city council recently in May. And so those have been the most recent interactions. And then I've been paying attention to the issues being discussed here.
With respect to 88 Hastings Street, how did the city come into acquisition of that property?
Via foreclosure some years back, 12 or 13 years back.
Sorry, I'd like to raise an objection. The lease with 80 Hastings Street is not relevant to the hearing or what's listed in the remonstrance petition.
Okay, I understand that, but it was discussed, in terms of your witnesses as well. And I think for the purposes right now, it's just a general understanding of what's going on. So I'll allow it.
The only, again, thank you. And so the city acquired the property next door. The property was improved?
At the time, prior to the city's acquisition, and I don't know exactly the sequence of events prior to the city's acquisition, but for some years prior, it was an industrial facility. 37,000 square foot copper plating facility was its last known use that I'm aware of. And the operator there ceased operations, fell behind on his taxes, effectively abandoned the property, as do many of these industrial properties, fell to the city as the owner of last resort.
And did the city have to demolish the building that was located there?
We did. We tried to reposition it a number of times to see if we could have a successor user come in, but the building was in pretty bad shape. And with environmental issues, et cetera, it didn't make a lot of sense. So ultimately, we did take the building down.
Okay. Now, when did that occur?
I think the work was completed in March, January, between January and March. With this COVID, the days are blurring, but it was either the recent January to March or the year prior, January to March.
Understood. I have the same
Yeah,
issue.
sorry, I could look it up and tell you.
But within the past couple of years.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
And you've looked to make productive use of that property.
We've quietly marketed the property. There are still issues that would need to be addressed to really deal with the entirety of the property. As I say, it's 37,000 square feet. So when we were approached by the Schultens, with whom we had been in general discussions about their business, as I shared, and they advanced the idea of seeing if they could use a portion of the property for an outdoor patio space. We viewed it as we've viewed a lot of overtures we've gotten from businesses in the COVID era as an adaptation that would allow for the business to take advantage of some outside space. So we engaged more directly in that conversation. But more broadly, to your question, we continue to try to think about a global solution for the whole property.
I'm sorry. I'd like to.
I'm done with that point.
I'd like to put on the record my objection. This is extensive discussion about 80 Hastings Street and a proposed lease for a patio. I was repeatedly told that wasn't what we were here for. I couldn't even discuss how we canvassed Hastings Street with flyers. So this is not the issue at hand, and I would ask that we focus on what's on the remonstrance petition.
Okay, I note your objection. Attorney Burdon, again.
That was my last question.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Coleman, so Councilman Pereira is here, and she's here under the penumbrances of her office as a council person. Does she speak for the city of Bridgeport with respect to this remonstrance?
I object. He is a municipal employee who's in the Office of Economic Development. He has no authority over an elected city council member or what they can or cannot do. Thank you.
Okay, if you could please answer the question.
My understanding is based on what I have understood the city attorney's office position to be relevant to this particular matter. And I believe, Council, you have received a written communication from the city attorney's office. So I would rely upon that with respect to your question.
Okay, and I'd like to bring up Exhibit 9F, if we might, please.
F as in Frank.
F as in Frank. It's the letter from Attorney Thomas.
I'm sorry, I'd like to raise objection again. This is a letter regarding a joint meeting of two committees on the lease between Fifth State Distillery and the city attorney's office. And what the position was of those two committees on the lease. It has nothing to do with the liquor permit or the nuisance behavior created by Mr. Schulten and the holder of the liquor permit.
It's offered simply to clarify that even though Ms. Pereira has made a point during these proceedings that she's here as a council person for the city of Bridgeport, that she does not speak for the city of Bridgeport.
All right, can you explain what this document exactly is?
It's a letter from the city attorney, which concludes that Ms. Pereira's appearance here today is only to be interpreted in her individual capacity and not in the capacity of speaking for the city of Bridgeport.
All right, we will allow it and it will be marked as Exhibit F.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, are you aware of any reason why the liquor permit at 259 Asylum Street in Bridgeport should not be renewed? Do you have any knowledge as to why that should not be renewed?
I do not.
Thank you. I don't have any other formal questions for you. Is there anything that you would like to say with respect to the remonstrance that's been filed?
Well, as I say, my interactions have been positive with the business on the kind of business we discussed together, which is the growth of this kind of industry in the city and its location and how it can be accommodated as a place where we can have growth. It's been my experience that it's not easy to do business in this particular stretch. It's kind of a tough road, and I think that the business has done well there, and particularly because of the location. And we've had some discussions about looking at downtown locations and others, but this has been a good story for the city economically to have Fifth State Distillery be on the Connecticut Distillery Trail on the tourism maps, as you've seen the State Department of Economic Development market. It's been something that's been good for the city economically, and I think in terms of the image of the city. And that's why we have been supportive of the business, and I feel good about that. I feel it's been a good business to work with here in the city. That's been my experience.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
Just one, Mr. Coleman, there's a claim by the remonstrance that different events have been hosted at Fifth Street Distillery and alcohol has been served in violation of their manufacturer's permit, section 30-16 of our statutes. Do you have any firsthand knowledge of whether that has occurred or not?
I do not, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions? I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Hi, I'm sorry. Talk about the patio next door because everyone keeps bringing it up in the adjacent piece. Does this meet the current zoning laws if they open a patio without current parking? And what would the parking requirements be that they're on the current proposal?
Thank you, Commissioner. It would be a permitted use under a special permit, which means it would be reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission in a public hearing. It's hard to say exactly what the parking requirement would be, in part because it's sometimes driven by capacity. And although it's been asserted that the capacity would necessarily be 100 people, that still would be based on what actual application is submitted. No application has been submitted so far. The street is So the primary reliance would be on-street parking, and this is obviously an issue the Planning and Zoning Commission would have to consider and be persuaded is sufficient. But what you see when you look at the street is you have a stretch of about 450 feet to the north of the facility where you don't see any parking being used on the street, although parking is available on both sides of the street. And as you go south to where the residences are closer to Boston Avenue, you see both sides of the street are parked by residential users. So you have about 450 feet to the north, you have about 380 feet to the south in this industrial area where you don't see parking being used at all. So one can make an evidence-based argument that there'll be plenty of parking on street to accommodate the use, but you'd have to look at the specifics of their proposal once they submit it. As of now, the lease is not approved. It's still before the city council, and there's not a specific site plan that's been advanced yet, but the use would be permitted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. And you have not visited the site or been there for a party or any type of reception?
I have visited the site, but I have never been there for a party or any type of reception, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Ms. Pereira?
Yeah. Mr. Coleman, do you reside in Bridgeport?
No,
Do you rent or own any property in the 138 district?
no,
Are you a municipal employee whose compensation is funded by taxpayers, including homeowners of the 138 district?
yes,
Are you an appointee of the mayor?
yes,
Are you here currently as a city employee being compensated by taxpayers?
yes,
Did you participate on the tour that you arranged on Saturday, May 8th?
yes, I did.
Mhm. And prior to that, when was the last time you were in that immediate vicinity or neighborhood?
I couldn't tell you exactly, Councilwoman.
Would it be
It
close?
wouldn't, it would not have been a long time prior. I mean, it wouldn't have been a long time. I get around the city very frequently.
Right, well, COVID started in March 2020. Had you been there anytime prior to that or since March, prior to the May tour? Had you been there at all in the year 2020?
In all likelihood, yes. To the general area, what's your question?
Have you been in that general neighborhood where the Asylum Street dump is and so forth? That immediate area where the distillery is? Prior to the May 8th tour? When was
Yes.
the last time you had been in that neighborhood?
I couldn't tell you exactly the date that was the last time I'd been in that neighborhood.
Is it correct there's an abandoned dog pound on that very same street within feet of the May 5th, the 5th Street Distillery?
There is the abandoned kennel that's about 950 feet up on the opposite side of the street. That is correct.
And when I brought to your attention that the building was incredibly dangerous, dilapidated, unstable.
I'm gonna object. We're not talking about a dog kennel here. This is the subject property.
It's in the neighborhood. And it's
No,
relevant.
I agree. I mean, if you're talking about a specific property that's got nothing to do with this remonstrance, I think we're getting a little far afield.
Okay, we talked about 80 Hastings Street and that has nothing to do with the remonstrance.
Okay, again, I don't see the relevance.
Has the Fifth State Distillery created any Bridgeport jobs in its 5 years of existence?
My understanding is yes, that it has.
Okay, how many, what jobs and are they full-time, part-time? Are they benefited? What jobs?
I couldn't speak to that. Don't know.
Okay. You were at the tour on May 8th. And were you present when I asked Mr. Schulten how many Bridgeport employees he had and what his response was?
I was present. My memory of the general discussion of employment was that Mr. Schulten had said that in the past, prior to the pandemic, that they had some Bridgeport employees. And again, my memory, and I don't claim to be perfect, is that they had currently or soon anticipated one Bridgeport employee. I'm just not clear on my memory there. It certainly was clear that it was a family business with husband, wife, and son. And I thought, my memory again, is that there was one other Bridgeport employee currently and that there had been Bridgeport employers previously. Bridgeport employees, pardon me.
But the Schultons and their son are not Bridgeport residents. Is that correct?
I don't know exactly where they live.
Okay. You just testified that you thought the Fifth State Distillery was good for the city economically.
Yes,
Are you aware that the Fifth State Distillery has received significant state mandated tax abatements on both their real estate and their personal property, and continue to receive those today, and have paid almost no taxes in the last 5 years?
I'm going to object on that. It has nothing to do with the remonstrance, number one. Number two is there's no foundation to that claim.
Mr. Coleman just testified the Fifth State Distillery was good for the city economically.
Okay, I will allow it, but again, you know, the questions have to be relevant to the remonstrance, but I will allow that question.
Has Fifth State Distillery, and are they currently receiving significant tax abatements as a manufacturer mandated by state law on both their real estate and their personal property?
I'm going to object. There's no evidence that Fifth State Distillery owns any real estate.
So what?
I didn't ask if it was owned.
You just asked if there was an abatement of taxes with respect to their real estate. They don't own any real estate.
They have a lease where they're responsible for all the taxes on their property. I have a copy of it.
Okay, you can answer the question in terms of the lease.
Okay, my general understanding is that the company was eligible for and did apply for and was certified by the State Department of Economic and Community Development as deserving of what's called the Urban Enterprise Zone tax benefit. And what that means is that as a company locates in a particular city, and there are, as Commissioner Bellato and others know, there are a number of these throughout the state in urban areas and distressed communities. As companies come into a location and create new assessed value, that new value is abated to a certain percentage during, in this case, I believe it is the first 5 years of the company's operation. And so I believe the abatement of the new value is an 80% abatement during the 5-year period. So they pay 20% of the new assessment. My general understanding is that the 5-year period has concluded and that the company would be subject to normal assessment and taxation in the years going forward. So that's, I'd have to review the specific file, Councilwoman, to give you the exact numbers, but it's a state program and they, as a manufacturer, were eligible as of right to receive that benefit. And my understanding is that they did.
And are you aware that their urban enterprise tax abatement does not end until September, so they are currently receiving it?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last part of your phrase.
Are you aware that that urban enterprise tax abatement they receive is, they're currently receiving it, and it does not expire until September?
As I shared with you, I'm not exactly aware of the current status of the file.
Okay, and now I'd like to ask, because we're talking about the patio and the lease, the proposal that the city council received includes a 3,000 square foot concrete patio with a polymer coating, new fencing bordering the pot, and new sidewalks. And who's 100% responsible for the cost of those improvements in the lease?
It depends on how you look at it, Councilwoman, and that the city owns this property already. And the sidewalk requirement is something that the city already owns. As you know, if you have a piece of property, you ought to have a sidewalk in front of it. So there's that piece of it. In terms of the fencing, the business discussion thus far has been one in which the folks from Fifth State who have already procured some fencing, we believe can be donated to the project and used. So again, this is still being worked out because, as you know, the lease is not yet approved. The cost would fall to the city relevant to the smoothing out of the concrete pad to make sure it's safe for people to walk on, nothing to trip over. And it would be my preference that the city install the fence so that it is installed correctly in the base once it's laid out.
So in
So-
the current, I'm sorry, in the current,
ahead.
lease, does it not specifically state that the new 3,000 square foot concrete patio, not existing, the new,
I'm
The
gonna
follow-
object at this point. I mean, we're not, nobody got into the details about any lease that hasn't even been signed yet. It's,
I agree. I mean, I've allowed some testimony because both parties have brought it up. So, you know, I've given some leeway, but we're really getting far afield away from what the remonstrance is about. So we need to stick again to, you know, the issues of the remonstrance.
well, I'm just gonna say the commissioner specifically asked about the patio. There's been a lot of discussion about Hastings.
There
School.
has,
And
but I think we're, you know, we're getting way beyond anything that's relevant to this proceeding.
I'm just asking a simple question. Is it the Bridgeport taxpayer who will fund the vast majority of the costs associated with this? That's all I want.
again, I'm gonna object. We're not, the deal hasn't been finalized.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you know, again, the issue of the adjacent property and lease has come up from both parties for different reasons, but now we're getting really into specifics that are completely irrelevant for today. So I will ask you to move on with any other questions you may have for Mr. Coleman.
I would just like to ask, typically when somebody rents or leases a commercial property, does the tenant make all the improvements to get the business where it needs to be? Or would
Again,
rent-
I'm gonna object. This is typical lease, totally not relevant.
It's not relevant to today's proceeding. So again, if you have other additional questions for Mr. Coleman, you know, please proceed. But, you know, I think we've heard enough about the lease at this point. So Ms. Pereira, do you have any additional questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you,
much.
Mr. Coleman.
Thank you.
Attorney Burdon, do you have an additional witness?
Yes, I'm going to call Robert Schulten, please. And if we could just maybe angle the camera a little bit towards Mr. Schulten a little bit more, that would be great. So everybody gets a good view of him. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Schulten. Can you tell me what is your relationship to Fifth State Distillery?
I'm the head distiller there.
Okay.
I'm the person who comes up with new products.
And you're also the permittee on the license?
Correct.
And you are married to Bridget Schulten?
36 years.
I'm
Congratulations.
sorry, can I just ask you to speak up, Mr. Schulten?
Am I
Here.
not close enough?
No,
Which side?
you
Oh,
just can't,
okay.
they can't hear you. Just click.
That should help.
And who owns Fifth State Distillery LLC?
Bridget, my wife.
Thank you. Can we bring up Exhibit 1 for the respondents, please? Perfect. Now, Mr. Schulten, Fifth State Distillery, its address is 259 Asylum Street in Bridgeport, correct?
Correct.
Is that part of a larger structure?
Yes, it is. We have people behind us and to the side of us.
And by people, you mean other tenants who are located on the property?
We have other businesses on 3 sides.
And do you own the property that you're located on?
I do not.
Okay, and you lease there?
Correct.
And does this diagram show where your business is located?
Yeah, down an alleyway. Yes,
And it's part of a larger building?
correct.
Okay, I'd offer it, please.
Okay, this I believe is Exhibit F.
G,
no.
as in goat.
Oh, G, thank you.
And the building that it is a part of, is that 231 Asylum, known as 231 Asylum Street in Bridgeport?
Yes.
Can we bring up Exhibit 2? Is this the field card for the property?
Yes, it is.
I'd offer it.
Okay, that is Exhibit H.
Can we scroll down? Oh, sorry.
No.
Can we scroll down to the last page of that exhibit? Mr. Schulten, you see the zoning classification there?
Yes.
Okay.
ILI.
Yeah, and that's light industrial?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I can come down. We could. So Mr. Schultz, what is the business of this state distillery?
We're a small craft distillery. We make a variety of spirits.
And you distill on the premises?
Yes.
Do you provide tours of your premises?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the requirements under 30-16?
Yes.
What do you understand the requirements are with respect to the consumption of beverage alcohol on the premises?
Up to 2 ounces per day per person. And people can buy up to 2 750-liter bottles per day. And then there's a maximum over a 2-month period.
And the distillery has been located at its present location for since when?
7.5 years.
And have you always complied with those regulations?
Always.
Can you give us a brief history of your work background, please?
My work background, I started out of graduate. I went to Tufts University, became a chemical engineer. That's how I qualified to be a distiller. Went to University of Chicago, got my MBA. Next 10 years, I worked for a variety of natural resource companies. And then I went to work with General Electric, where I was an internal consultant for 20 years. I actually started across the street is the cemetery. GE's big plant in Bridgeport was right on the other side of that cemetery. That's where I started my career at GE. I spent 20 years going around the world, fixing their plants, helping grow that business. When I graduated from GE, we had the opportunity to do what I always wanted to do, which was start a distillery.
Great. And so, and again, during the 7 years that you've operated, you've done so in compliance in terms of any sort of tastings or consumption of beverage alcohol, in complete compliance with the requirements of 30-16.
Yes, sir.
All right. You also hold a federal basic permit.
Yes.
And that federal basic permit allows you to distill, correct?
Yes.
All right. And just incidentally, do you hold any elective office?
No.
Are you, do you hold any position in law enforcement?
I do not.
Does the company file its unemployment tax returns and make payments for unemployment taxes?
Yes, we do.
Do you pay and are you current on your excise taxes?
Yes.
Have you ever made a false statement to the department?
I have not.
And I just have to ask this question. You're over the age of 18, right?
Barely.
Okay. What is your age?
Yes, I am. I'm 64.
Okay, thank you. Turning to the matters at hand, specifically, you recall the tour that you provided on May 8th to Ms. Pereira and others.
Yes.
And Ms. Pereira has made, you've heard all the testimony today, right?
Correct.
And she's trying to draw by implication and attribute to you a statement that you or your wife may have said that you have bachelor and retirement parties at the premises, and by implication that you serve in excess of the amounts of alcohol that are permitted under 30-16. Do you recall that testimony?
A lot of people have said that, yes.
First off, do you ever host events that are or tours that are pre-planned for larger groups?
I mean, we're open one day a week to the public. Saturdays 1 to 5 for people to come in. The rest of the week we're hot, so we really don't want people in. Our doors are open sometimes. You know, we talked about bachelor parties. Bachelor parties do come in, but the ones that we have had, and there's been 1 or 2, they come off, it's by appointment only. They've come off something called the Connecticut Beer Bus that is arranged weeks in advance, and we get whoever comes off the bus. They're there for less than an hour. They've gone to 2 roads before us, and they're going to another brewery after us. So we have a 1-hour time slot to walk them around.
And in terms of any consumption of alcohol that may occur during that event, is that limited to the tasting quantities?
Absolutely, yes.
And so when you made a reference to having bachelor parties or other things of that nature, was that what you were referring to?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, and these are part of tours that stop at other locations, as you mentioned, 2 roads, that's in Bridgeport?
Stratford, town next door, about a mile away.
All right. And, but those tours, you're just one of the stops, of many stops on a tour.
Yes, sir.
Now, there was also testimony concerning an incident that occurred when you were approaching your place of business one morning. You recall that?
Yes.
And did you at any point in time intend to threaten, harm, or intimidate anyone that was standing in front of your business?
No, I was just trying to get to work.
Okay. And was your son with you?
Yep.
And were people blocking your entrance into your driveway?
The Channel 12 guy was in the middle of the driveway with his head down. I thought he was looking at his cell phone, but yeah, he was in the way.
And did you honk your horn to get his attention?
Yes.
Okay. And you eventually were able to unlock the gate and make entry into your place of business?
Yeah, my son unlocked it.
Okay. Can we bring up exhibit? I think it's Commission Exhibit C at this point.
Photos?
Commission Exhibit C, it was R3.
The photos, right?
Yeah, the photos, I'm sorry. Third page, please. Mr. Schulten, is this the entrance gate to your place of business?
Yes, that's the gate on the left, and you can see the green door and the garage door at the end.
Okay. And when you were approached, you were approaching from what would have been the right-hand side of the photograph?
Correct.
And if people were standing 11 abreast with their backs towards Cogswell Street and not standing in the roadway, would they have been able to stand in that configuration without being in the driveway to your property?
I'd like to object. I don't think he's an expert on how 11 or 12 people can stand in any configuration.
It's within a lay person's ability to estimate that.
And
I mean-
I'll allow it.
Yeah, I stopped because there were people in the driveway.
Thank you.
You know, there was the Channel 12 guy in the middle and other people on the right-hand side.
Okay. Have you ever been arrested for a crime?
Never.
Have you
No,
ever been convicted of a crime?
no.
With respect to the incident that Ms. Pereira brings up, you're aware of that police report, correct?
Yes.
Is that police report accurate?
No.
Okay. And by the way, were you ever contacted by the police in connection with that event?
Never.
So this serious event where supposedly somebody's life was maybe threatened, you were never contacted by the police?
That is correct.
Thank you. I have nothing further of Mr. Schulten.
Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions?
So can you explain to me one more time about this bachelor party or bus that shows up at the site?
Sure, it's a regularly scheduled bus that comes out of Hartford, and it's people, it's by appointment. They sign up for the bus, and the bus goes to different parts of Connecticut so that they can taste different beers, you know, and occasionally a distillery. There's 120 breweries and a small number of distilleries in Connecticut.
And how often does it come to your facility?
We're talking pre-COVID, right?
Yeah, or yes.
4 times a year.
Okay, so it's not a regular occurrence.
No.
And are there other type parties that you hold there?
No.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
There was testimony about, when you had that meeting that you made reference to people using Uber or Lyft. Is that something you recall? Do you recall saying anything about that in addition to this beer bus?
It's not in relation to beer bus at all. The really Uber is the substitute for the beer bus. It's a responsible way of going around from location to location. We're generally just a stop. If someone comes off the ferry from Long Island, they're going to Uber up to us and then go to 2 roads, go somewhere else. You know, the same thing is true for a lot of people who come off the train, who want to, or who just want to have a safe night out.
Okay. Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Schulten. I think you said that you're only open on Saturdays for people to tour the facility. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, so am I also correct in understanding that you may have these scheduled tour stops, but you also could have people on a Saturday come to tour without scheduling anything? Is that correct?
Correct.
And whether it's the tour stop or people just stopping in unexpectedly, is it safe to assume that in addition to touring the facility, they also sample the products? Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so how do take us through that process. Let's just take one example of the tour stop, the beer tour stop at your place. How do you provide the samples, and what is your process of ensuring that you stay within the statutory guidelines of 2 ounces per person per day?
We use very small cups. They're 1/4 ounce communion cups, and we fill them about 1/3 full. The intent, our products are very bold and different tasting products. So people need to taste them to consider buying them. So we have a dozen products, and they get, 1/8 of an ounce each taste. It's really just a taste.
Okay, so you don't sort of fill cups up and leave them on a table for people to grab. You give each person one of the small cups and then fill up with whatever it is they want to taste.
Well, yeah, we're there to sell. We're selling an experience, and people, they want to hear about what they're tasting, how it got there, what makes it interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Pereira, do you have any questions?
I do. I think it's important to remind Mr. Schultzen, he's under oath, under penalty of perjury. And I'd like to know, when I visited your distillery on May 8th, do you have a lovely, quaint little bar area set up with seating in your distillery?
I do not.
I'm sorry? When you enter your distillery to the left, is there a lovely, quaint bar area with a backdrop of all your bottles on display?
That's where
I'm sorry?
that is where we do tastings.
Okay.
It's not a bar.
Okay. And on the tour that I took May 8th, did you have any full-size glasses stored behind that bar area?
Don't know why I would.
Mr. During the tour, I asked you what your experience was in entertainment venues based on the lease proposal versus a distillery. I want to understand what you knew about it, or had you worked in that industry? And what was your response, Mr. Schultzen?
I don't remember.
You have no recollection of what your response was regarding the events hosted in your distillery?
We're talking to a lot of people over a long period of time. I don't remember ever a response.
Did you respond by saying that you had been hosting quote unquote mini events, including bachelor parties and retirement parties, as I testified and others did?
By appointment, bachelor parties have come in. We don't host bachelor parties. They come up. We can't select who comes in the door.
Have you hosted retirement parties, Mr. Schultzen, as you stated on that day?
That was never said because we've never done it.
Mr. Schultzen, you understand that 4 people have testified to you saying that on May 8th.
I heard all of them.
Okay. You are zoned as light industrial strictly for manufacturing purposes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you zoned as an entertainment venue that can host parties, serve food, serve alcohol?
Objection, calls for a legal conclusion.
Well, I would hope the owner of the business who has the permit knows what he can and cannot do.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
I can bring people in, give them a tour, give them up to 2 ounces, sell them 2 bottles.
Can you answer my specific question? Are you zoned as an entertainment venue that can host parties, serve food, or alcohol?
We are.
Again, he can, I'm going to object. He can answer if he knows. Just got to ask if he knows.
Are you the holder of the liquor permit that's strictly regulated, Mr. Schultzen?
I am.
So you have to.
I don't know entertainment.
You're required to comply with both local zoning regulations where your distillery is located and with the specific requirements of operating a distillery. Is that correct?
Correct.
does either the local zoning regulations that you were approved for and your liquor permit allow you to host parties, serve food or alcohol other than the 2-ounce tastings?
It does not.
It does not. Now, let's see. In relationship to the events of Saturday, May 15th, when we held the press conference, you stated, and I'm going to quote, "I was just trying to get to work." Am I correct that you were approaching your premises from Cogswell Street?
Yes,
You came to the intersection of Cogswell and Asylum Street, and your son was in the vehicle, correct?
yes,
Did you say anything to your son?
no. I mean,
Okay, you
no,
didn't, nothing. Did you
No.
say anything out loud when you noticed we were standing there with our backs facing you?
I saw the Channel 12 guy in the middle of my driveway.
Mr. Schulten, there were 12 people standing in front of Frank Recchia, who was bent over, trying to put a mic up the front of my shirt. His vehicle was parked. How could you have possibly seen Frank Recchia?
He was in the middle of my driveway.
But you were all the way at the corner of Cogswell and Asylum, right?
No, this is after I stopped.
No, but I'm asking you, when you reached the intersection of Cogswell and Asylum, which you would have had to make a right-hand turn, you couldn't possibly have seen Frank Recchia, is that correct?
Correct.
Right, because we were totally blocking him, okay? Now, once you saw us, did you accelerate your vehicle towards all of us who were standing there peacefully assembled on the sidewalk?
No,
You did not accelerate your vehicle towards us?
no,
Did you blear your horn? And I'm not talking about tap, like lean on your horn the entire length of travel from the intersection of Asylum and Cogswell to where you suddenly braked?
no,
You did not lean on your horn.
correct.
Did you slam on your brakes right alongside us where we were aligned?
I stopped.
Within feet, within a foot, and some, it's 1 foot, and some people 2 feet. Did you slam on your brakes within very close distance of the 11 to 12 people who were standing there peacefully assembled on a sidewalk?
I stopped as soon as I saw a man standing in the middle of my driveway.
Okay. When you saw the man standing in front of your driveway, because he was the person standing in front of your driveway, right? Not the residents, the neighboring residents. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you exit your vehicle to approach Mr. Recchia?
Yes,
And what did you say to Mr. Recchia?
I got out of my vehicle because Mr. Recchia didn't look up. He was working on something. And so I went over, saw who it was, shook his hand, asked about his mom. And he asked, would I like to comment? And I said, no.
Mhm.
Went back to the car.
And when you asked about Frank Recchia's mother, what did he say to you?
He said, thank you for asking.
Okay. Did he inform you that his mother had been deceased for over a year?
He did not.
Mhm. And so you're saying you were just trying to get to work and Frank Recchia was in the driveway, but you're expressing that you exited the vehicle and were quite cordial to him. But he was the person that you're asserting was in blocking your entrance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Not the 12 neighboring residents.
In time, I saw them once I stopped, but you asked the question, why did I stop?
When you got out of the vehicle, were you irate? And did you flail your hands and tell us to get out of the way, that we were blocking entrance into your business?
I said nothing to the people in front of me. There was no eye contact made. I only talked to Frank.
Well, Frank Recchia was placing a microphone on me when you exited that vehicle. Did I not say specifically to you that you are behaving aggressively?
I did not hear that.
Did Frank Recchia's assistant, who's autistic, Charles, the African-American man, did he insert his shoulder between you and Frank Recchia and repeatedly ask you to calm down?
He did not.
I want to reiterate, you're under penalty. You've taken an oath here. Mr. Schultz, and you're testifying under penalty of perjury. I want to put that on the record. You said that the police report was not accurate. I have the report here. We can put it up on the screen. What about this report is not accurate? Are we putting the report on the screen? Okay. Thank you. I apologize.
Thank you.
Mr. Schulten, what about this report is not accurate? I know there's something inaccurate here, but I'd like to know what you think is inaccurate.
I didn't blow my horn at a protester. The vanity plate is gin. I have a Ford, not a Ram. Yeah, I did not try and scare anyone.
Is there anything else, Mr. Schulten?
Stop in the vehicle, the driver. Yeah, I didn't yell at anybody.
Mr. Schulten, you're testifying here today. You did not accelerate your vehicle at the 12 residents peaceably assembled on the sidewalk with our backs facing you, that you did not lean on the horn and blare it and slam your brakes within a foot of some of the residents standing closest to the curb. Is that correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Yeah, that was asked and answered. If you could please move on.
Okay, the only thing I'd like to say is, I want to be clear that the report, it says here that I thought the driver was trying to scare.
Objection, she can ask a question of the witness, she can't testify.
Yeah, again, do you have any more additional questions?
Mr. Schulten, it says here that I thought the driver was the owner of the Fifth State Distillery. Is it correct that I already knew that you were the owner or the owner of the Fifth State Distillery and the permit holder?
Objection, he can't testify to what you knew or didn't know.
From our tour on March 7th. Did you not specifically state there that you and your wife were the owners and you were the permit holder?
He can answer that question.
It's a woman-owned business. I'm sure we said that.
But you are the owner of the permit, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to object to that. Calls for a legal conclusion.
All right, please proceed.
Okay. You testified that you were never contacted by the police regarding the police report. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are you aware that the Bridgeport Police Department is in turmoil, that our police chief was indicted, arrested, sentenced to prison, that there are 3 lawsuits pending against the acting chief, that we have 66 vacant positions as of March 2021, and are significant depleted in manpower? Are you aware of that?
No.
Would that be a plausible explanation as to why you were
Wait,
not?
I'm sorry, are we done with the report?
Well, I'm talking about the police report and why he wasn't contacted. I don't need it. I'm fine with that.
Okay, Attorney Anderson, you can take it down. Thank you.
Based on what I just stated on the record, would that help to explain to you why you have not been contacted by the police department yet regarding this report?
Objection, it calls for speculation.
I agree. Can you move on?
When I took the tour on May 7th, and several of us were expressing concerns about parking, and you referenced that the majority of your patrons utilized Uber and Lyft, but yet today you just testified that these bachelor parties come on buses. If that's the case and they come on buses to avoid drinking and driving, why on May 7th was your answer that the majority of your patrons use Uber and Lyft due to potential DUI issues?
My point was millennials are being are doing the right thing and not drinking and driving. They're being responsible.
Right, but if the bachelor parties, you just testified that these people come on a bus, so they don't need an Uber or Lyft, They're coming on a bus with these bachelor parties. That's what you just testified to. So if that's the case, what was the basis of bringing up the Uber and Lyft when we started talking about the issues with parking? If they're being transported to and from your distillery on a bus, what was the basis of bringing up Uber and Lyft to defend the drinking and driving and the parking issues?
It was regarding, we were at the time on the slab talking about the outdoor tasting area. And you asked about parking, you know, more people who are driven there means there's less requirements for parking.
Mr. Schulten, when we referenced that there would be 100, up to 100 people on the patio, who gave us that figure on May 7th?
I did.
You did. And I just want to, are you aware when I asked you the question about what was your experience on the entertainment side versus the distillery, that we were not on the adjacent property, we were actually standing in the distillery?
Say that again.
Are you aware when I posed a question to you about your experience on the entertainment side versus the distillery side and what experience you had with that, where the event, the statement regarding mini events, which you assert you didn't make, are you aware that when I asked the question, we were not on the adjacent property, we were standing in the distillery when I asked that question? And several of my guests witnessed your response. So you just said I asked on the patio, and that's not correct.
You came because you were looking regarding the contract with the city regarding the patio.
And Mr. Schulten, you've been in existence for, I think, is it 6 years, opened? How many years have you been open? The distillery been?
5+.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
5+.
And how many current Bridgeport residents work in your distillery?
1.
Are they full-time and benefited?
No.
And the rest of the employees are whom?
Me and my son.
Is your wife not an employee, which is what you told me the day of the May 7th tour?
She is not an employee.
She is not an employee. Okay. And so you have one part-time Bridgeport employee currently? Is that correct?
Correct.
Objection asked and answered.
I don't think I asked about status of part-time. Okay, and how many total Bridgeport employees have you had?
Objection asked and answered.
We have gone over this.
No.
So, if you could move on.
See, I just want to check my notes. Oh, your lease, which is important. Your lease, which for your distillery, requires you to pay 100% of the real estate and the personal property taxes. Is that correct?
Objection, not relevant.
We did allow discussion of the lease earlier. Again, I tend to, for remonstrances, give people a lot of leeway, but we afford it the way it's due at the end of the day in terms of its relevance, in terms of this remonstrance. So I will allow it.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to kind of get this thing pared down. We have about 25 minutes left before the bewitching hour, and I do have one more witness.
Okay. Sir, can you answer that question?
The property taxes are paid through the lease to my landlord, and I pay real property tax to the city.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Attorney Beardon, you have one more witness?
I do. I'd like to call Bridget Schulten.
I'm sorry, I apologize, but I was told that I was gonna be able to cross Dennis Buckley, whose exhibit was entered into the record.
I'm sorry, didn't we already go through? He was already.
No, Dennis Buckley. This letter submitted by Dennis Buckley into evidence. I asked if I was going to be able to cross on this, and I was told yes, but he just announced he has one more witness.
Oh, I thought that was submitted when, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that was submitted when Mr. Coleman was testifying.
Right, but the letter is written and submitted by Dennis Budley, the Director of Zoning.
Okay, and he is not here today, is that correct?
No, he's not here to testify. If she wanted to call him, she could have called him.
Okay. We do have to go on, move on. I mean, we're gonna now hear from the testimony of Bridget Shelton.
Yes, please. Ms. Schulten, you were sworn in
Yes.
before? Yes, thank you. Quickly, can we have Exhibit 8 brought up, please? Our Exhibit 8. Ms. Schulten, can you identify this letter for us, please?
Yes, it's a letter from our Congressman Jim Himes, who's visited our distillery at least 2 or 3 times.
And what was the purpose of this letter?
You know, we wanted to have people understand that, you know, we're in good standing with our, you know, congressmen, representatives, et cetera. And he certainly supports us, you know, expanding our business.
And during COVID, did you have to pivot your business from away from consumer consumption goods into other products?
Absolutely.
How did you pivot your business during COVID?
We stopped making distilled spirits one day, and the next day started making a lot of ethanol to make hand sanitizer.
And was Congressman Himes, was he commending you for those efforts?
Yes, absolutely.
I'd offer it.
I believe this would be Exhibit I. Is that correct, Attorney Anderson?
Yes.
I'd like to object. What does this have to do with the liquor permit or the remonstrance hearing or the events of the conduct of Mr. Schulten? It doesn't say one thing about his liquor permit, this hearing, the expansion of his business, which Ms. Schulten just testified to. I don't understand what its relevance is.
Commissioner, as you know, the only 2 grounds are suitability of the person and suitability of the premise. This goes to the fact that there is suitability of the person. It goes to show that they're a good corporate citizen.
Yes, okay, we will allow it. And again, what is the exhibit number?
That was I.
Okay.
I as an indigo.
Okay, thank you.
It's Exhibit 8.
Attorney Anderson could bring up.
It's I for our purposes. That's his
Oh,
number.
I apologize. It says Exhibit A on it.
Ms. Schulten, in connection with these proceedings, did you also obtain letters of references from personal acquaintances that are known to you and your husband?
Yes, we did.
And did you get references from a Paul Whitmore, attorney Frederick Uri, Paul Dosey, Victoria Frankenberg, and William Lake?
Yes.
I'd like to offer those 5 exhibits.
Is that all the 9s? 9A, B?
It's 9A through E. You already have F is already in.
Okay, let me just, A, 9B. I'll open them and then run through them. And you want this collectively? I'm going to presume.
It
it
can
is
be one
for
exhibit
collective.
or they can be separate exhibits, whatever you need to do administratively.
Okay.
We can mark them collectively, those 5 exhibits as J.
Okay, do you need me to pull them up quickly?
Quickly.
Got it. Okay, so here's E, 9E from Lake, 9D from Frankenberg, 9C from Ducey, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, B from Yuri, and A from Whitmore, and that is collectively J.
Okay, thank you.
You can bring those down. Ms. Schulten, you are the owner of Fifth State Brewery LLC.
Fifth State Distillery LLC.
You've been doing that all through this. I so apologize.
That's okay. I just wanted to go on record.
You're the sole owner?
Correct.
And do you hold any public office?
No, I don't.
During the time in which you've owned this license, have you held any public office?
No, I haven't.
And do you hold any law enforcement position?
No.
And again, I'm sorry to ask you this question, but your age, please.
I am 62.
Does the company pay its unemployment taxes?
Absolutely.
Does it pay its excise taxes?
Yes.
And is the company in good standing with the Secretary of State's office, state of Connecticut?
Yes, it is.
You file your unemployment tax returns?
Yes.
And you file your state and federal income tax returns?
Yes.
You pay your debts when due?
Yes.
Were you present on the morning of May 15th during the events that Ms. Pereira has talked about with respect to your husband?
No, I was not.
You were there for the tour on May 8th, correct?
Yes.
And you heard the testimony concerning the attempted implication that in somehow or another your company's violated the beverage alcohol laws in terms of the service of beverage alcohol. You call that testimony?
Yes.
Has the company ever violated 30-16 in the service of alcohol in excess of 2 ounces per person per day?
No, it has not.
Have you ever been arrested of a crime?
No.
And I take it you've never been convicted of a crime?
No.
I have nothing further. And that's really in the interest of time so that we can try to finish today. So I'm trying to get us done here today.
Okay. Commissioner McKinney, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Boletto, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, Ms. Pereira, do you have any questions?
Yes. Am I allowed to ask questions related to the Jim Himes letter that was introduced just now?
Well, it's really a character reference and referencing, the COVID response, I believe. So she's not the author of the letter, so I'm not sure of the purpose.
Well, I just want to ask, because there's a legal opinion that's asserted that I speaking as a city councilwoman is somehow inappropriate because I'm not sanctioned by the full city council. Do you know if the House of Representatives in the United States Congress voted to allow Jim Himes to write this letter?
I don't know.
Okay, would it be your position that if the United States Congress didn't authorize the House, specifically Jim Himes, to write this letter, that makes it somehow invalid? Because he's just one person of the entire House of Representatives in Congress?
I have no opinion.
Okay. Is he the duly elected congressman for Fairfield County?
Yes.
Okay.
Congressman. Yeah.
Okay. You stated that this letter says something about he supports expanding your business. Can you point to me where in this letter that he says that he supports the expansion of the Fifth State Distillery in its current location? I don't see it.
It's not in the letter. He's visited our distillery at least 2 to 3 times for tours to support our small business. And he has stated his support in those personal conversations that we have had.
That's hearsay, right? Because he's not here to testify to that. And
You
it's
asked the
not in letter.
question.
That's hearsay and I'm objecting. It's not in the letter.
Okay, but you just, yeah, you did just ask the question, but again, hearsay is admissible in administrative proceedings. We will afford it the way, again, it's due, but it is permissible.
Do you know if Congressman Heim is aware that a police report has been filed against Mr. Schulten for his conduct and his aggressive behavior with residents and neighbors in the area of your distillery?
I don't know.
Okay. Are you a Bridgeport resident?
I think you already know the answer to that.
Are you a Bridgeport resident, Ms. Schulten?
I am not. No, I'm a business owner in the city of Bridgeport.
Have you ever resided in Bridgeport?
No,
Are you a homeowner, property owner, or taxpayer in the 138 district of Bridgeport?
no.
Well, you do pay taxes, right? Mr. Schulten just testified to that. Okay. So 7 witnesses have testified, with 4 of us being at the actual tour on May 7th, and 7 of us in total being present at the event on May 15th, where we filed a police report based on Mr. Schulten's actions. Can you think of any reason why 7 longtime residents of the 138 district would make up these wild accusations and file a police report that is being, in essence, we're being told it's completely false and none of this happened? Can you think of any reason why that would be done?
Objection, speculation.
Yes, I agree, it is speculation.
Did your husband or your son ever tell you about what occurred on that morning, Saturday, May 15th, regarding your husband's conduct and behavior, accelerating his vehicle, blaring his horn, getting out and yelling at us and flailing? Did he ever share any of that with you? And you're under oath.
Okay.
I'm gonna object in terms of the nature of the question. It's like it's the old kind of when did you stop beating your wife question. So it's
I think that's highly inappropriate.
No, can you just ask the question whether they asked her about the incident without, going into that detail?
Did your husband share any information with you about his actions on the morning of Saturday, May 15th, and the related police report?
Yes, both my husband and my son told me of the circumstances that happened. And I will attest to the fact that he is an upstanding man and an upstanding citizen. And I believe exactly what they told me happened.
Okay, so can you state on the record what it is that you were told by your husband and your son occurred on that morning when Mr. Schulten drove up Coswell Street and made a right-hand turn onto Asylum? You're under oath.
Here. Has that not already been discussed? You've asked everybody this question.
I'm asking you, as the wife and mother of your son and your husband, what did they tell you occurred on the morning of Saturday, May 15th, when your husband drove up and turned right on Asylum Street, heading towards the distillery?
He told me that he came up to the business. There was people standing in the driveway next to the driveway. So he had to stop short. He honked at them. They were in his driveway and he was going to work. So they were not in an appropriate position. He got out, spoke to Frank, did not give anyone any eye contact besides Frank, did not speak to anyone else besides Frank, got back in the truck. My son got out and opened the gate and they went to work.
Ms. Schulten, you just testified that your husband honked the horn. He just testified that he did not. Which one is true?
Again, you know,
I'm gonna object. First off, he did testify that he honked the horn. The question was, did he slam on the horn from Cogswell Street all the way down to the premises? That was what he denied.
Did your husband ever share with you that he was quite angry and agitated and irritated?
Again, objection.
I'm asking that she says you gave her the information. It's firsthand knowledge. Did your husband share with you his behavior and conduct and how he expressed himself that morning?
Yes, he did.
Okay, what did he share with you?
I think my attorney just objected to this.
No, you can answer the question.
Yes, he told me that he drove up and there were people standing in the driveway. Remember, you had told me you were going to be there. So
No surprises there.
no surprise that you were going to be there because you told me you were going to be there because of the outcome of the contracts committee. So we knew you were going to be there. There was no surprise when you drove down the street that you were there.
Ms. Schulten, did I ever tell you that I was going to be in front of Fifth States Distillery on Saturday morning, the 15th at 9 a.m.? I wouldn't even have known that the day we spoke, Ms. Schulten. I never told you that.
Told me.
No, I did not.
All right,
I spoke to you right after. Ms. Schulten, did I speak to you right after the contracts, the Joint Committee of Contracts?
I'm gonna object. It's getting
Yeah.
argumentative and we've got about 8 minutes left.
Yeah, can we move on? Because I want to give both of you an opportunity for closing statements. So do you have any additional questions?
I just have one question, if you get a second when they're done.
Okay.
I'd like to ask a question. Ms. Schulten, are you committing perjury right now under oath?
Okay, no, do you have any specific questions about her testimony? Otherwise, we really have to
I
move
do,
on.
because she just testified that I told her, and that is not truthful, and I'd like to
Okay,
clarify it.
we understand on the record that you disagree on that point, but we have to move on. Do you have any additional questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, Commissioner Boletto?
I just have one question. You were stating, what are the hours that you're open on Saturday?
It's 1 to 4. Rob actually said 1 to 5, which is incorrect. It's 1 to 4.
1 to 4. So you do not, so the bus, if it comes between that 1 and 4, is that a separate time frame?
No, it comes between the hours of 1 and 5. They know when we're open and we schedule it weeks ahead of time.
Okay, you just say, he said 1 to 5, you said 1 to 4, and then you just said 1 to 5 now.
Oh, sorry. It's been a long afternoon.
No,
We
no
are-
problem.
I mean, look at our website. It's 1 to 4 Saturdays, where there are 3 hours.
So anybody coming off a train or a bus or anything else, or an Uber or a Lyft to get to your place, they would have to come between Saturday between 1 and 4 o'clock. They cannot come on Friday afternoon at happy hour time. They can't come Sunday afternoon. They can't come at 6 o'clock on Saturday.
Nope.
Okay. So that's okay. So that's great. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I do want to give you both an opportunity for any closing statements if you would like to make them. I'll start with Ms. Pereira and then we'll move on to Attorney Burdon. Ms. Pereira?
Yes, on behalf of the respondents, I'd like to say that 7 residents of the 138 district who either just took the tour on May 7th, but all were present on the morning of Saturday, May 15th at the press event with News 12 and Frank Recchia testified today. And they all testified to Mr. Schulten's aggression. The people who were visited this distillery on May 7th all testified to his responses, that he had been holding many events, including bachelor parties and retirement parties, and that when we addressed the issue with parking, his response, well, you don't have to worry about parking because of DUIs and drinking. A lot of people take Ubers and Lyfts here and home. Again, why would somebody be intoxicated from 2 ounces of liquor? And that would have been the appropriate response. As far as all 7 of us who testified, we were all present for the May 15th Saturday event, and longtime residents, all homeowners, all testified repeatedly that our backs were faced to Cogswell Street and Mr. Schulten accelerated his pickup truck at us blared his horn the length of that acceleration, slammed on his brakes, and came within a foot and some people 2 feet of hitting people peacefully assembled on a public sidewalk expressing their free speech. This is not somebody who should be allowed to have his liquor permit renewed. It needs to be revoked. We feel that Mr. Sultan literally tried to frighten us, intimidate us, harass us. It was flagrant, it was blatant, and yet the one person he was cordial to, by his own assertions, was Frank Recchia, who was the person who apparently was standing in his driveway. The rest of us, he yelled, he screamed, he flailed his hands. It was a really terrifying experience. In addition, it's his own testimony, it was from him. He's the one who said he was holding bachelor parties and mini events. It's not hearsay, it came directly from him. He's the one who said, you don't have to worry about parking because most of our patrons come here because of DUIs and they take vehicles to our establishment and home. So I think it's quite obvious that Mr. Schultz is not somebody who should be holding a liquor permit of any sort and manufacturing liquor. And I urge you at the request of myself and my constituents to revoke that liquor permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pereira. Attorney Burdon, you're on mute.
Thank you, and thank you, Hearing Officer Stivler, Commissioners Boletto, Commissioners McKinney. We appreciate your time in the consideration of this matter this afternoon. I wish to direct your attention to Connecticut General Statutes 30-39C, which is the remonstrance statute that I'm sure you are familiar with. As you know, that there are only 2 categories under which a remonstrance can be lodged. One is suitability of the person, the other is suitability of the location. There's been absolutely no evidence in this case whatsoever that the location is not suitable. None whatsoever. And as you know, now under the amendment of the statute, you can only do it if there is a prohibition for zoning or hours of regulation. Those just don't exist. So we don't even need to consider that. As to suitability of the person, the statutes are pretty clear as to what you are constrained in terms of your consideration. And those are the statutory prohibitions for elected officials, minors, and law enforcement officers. Both of the Schultz has testified they do not fall into any of those classes. One of the other situations would be the acquiring of another liquor permit. Your records show that there is none and there was no evidence to that. So there's no violation of 30-48. And then finally, one who fails to file their unemployment returns, they're barred from holding a license. They've testified that they file those reports. They also have testified that they are financially responsible. There's been no allegation that they use alcohol to the excess or have made any false statements to the department or have been convicted of any crime relative to the sale of beverage alcohol. None of that has been established here. And those are the only reasons that you can consider. Now, you might take the events of May 15th. Let's assume that the respondent's testimony is credible. And I would suggest to you that to a T, the respondent's testimony was identical among 7 people. I have never, ever been in a hearing where 7 people testify identically to a particular set of facts when it's not rehearsed and use the same terminology and the same verbiage. So I suggest to you that, maybe in terms of an issue of credibility, when it's rehearsed that well, maybe that testimony is not credible. But let's assume that it is. Even if it was, it's not a consideration for you. You don't have the statutory authority to deny the license based upon those allegations. You simply don't. doesn't exist. If you were to do that, it would create an appeal issue. And so I urge you not to consider that reason. For those reasons, and I do realize it is late, and I do again appreciate your time, we suggest that the remonstrance should be denied and the license should be issued. We ask you to do that immediately so that we can have be in active status as soon as possible.
Point of order, moving forward. Thank you, Attorney Verdun. I did receive an email from your office with a memorandum attached. Are you going to be formally asking that to be submitted to the
Yeah, if
commission?
you can, I guess I summarized it, but yeah, I don't care.
Sure. Ms. Pereira, you were copied on that. I leave it to the commission if you want to give Ms. Pereira the opportunity to reply.
Trying to reply to something I haven't seen.
No,
Well,
no.
like in writing.
Right.
If you're going to give her the opportunity to reply in writing, then I don't want to submit it. I just want to end this now.
Okay.
We would give her the opportunity to reply. So it's, do you want to submit it or no?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Department's good. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone very much for attending today, providing testimony and evidence. And the commission will be convening and considering all the testimony and evidence that was given today and rendering a written decision. And we realize we try to get these out as quickly as we can. We can't guarantee a time frame, but again, we will be issuing a decision shortly. And I want to thank you all again for attending. And this hearing is now closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.